Let's see how this works. All right. That's fun. That is fun, and that is fun. All righty then. Let's see if I remember how everything works here. I've been uh, I've been operating some different equipment for some different hardware for a few weeks. Let us just get settled in. Maybe someone will show up. Let's get the volume. All right, we have audio. Why don't we? All right. Check 1 2. I don't know how this stuff works. Let's see. My volume can go up. Let's do that. And Kevin Ritchie, how are you, my friend? That is, you know, warms my heart. Doesn't even begin to. Thank you, my friend. You were here, and you give me um, so much hope because I see you taking care of yourself and getting healthier and dealing with a lot of health challenges. So I appreciate that in the midst of that, for months now, you've been considering this a part of your week. That really means a lot to me, and it means so much that you're always right here and at the top of the show, even when I'm a couple minutes late. Um, so thank you. Hope you're doing well. And wow, I'm kind of in a daze here, folks. How are you, Pete Brunelli? Good to see you. Uh, miss seeing you in real life, my brother. But good that we were in touch. You're getting your booster today. Okay, well today we're gonna talk a little bit about vaccines and boosters. We're gonna talk about. I'll give a little thing at the top of the show, trying to get a little more professional, and then I'm gonna toss that shit all the way. But we're gonna talk a little bit about boosters and vaccines. And I was just on a tour that was vaccine proof only. I had a friend attack me because I was on tour because I gave him some criticism last year. This is a friend who does some shows. He puts on shows, and he did some shows without any kind of contact tracing or mask requirement or anything. And that's his choice, and it's the choice of the people who attended. But I criticized it, and he attacked me, calling me a hypocrite because I'm on tour. And I thought the obvious point that the tour I'm on is kind of radical in the grand scope of tours right now because my boss, and we'll talk about this. I'm going through kind of some topics here. Um, my boss and his management required vaccines to enter, to get a ticket, to come into that show. So that's an interesting thing, and we'll talk about that. But I want to talk about hepatitis, and hepatitis has a vaccine, and there's a hepatitis situation with Starbucks. So I like to talk about the headlines and um, see where they uh, 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 sorry, just I'm gonna have a lot of messages today that will distract me, folks, because I'm just back in the real world and picking up pieces for all kinds of stuff. Give me a second. Um, yeah. So that's another topic. So vaccines, Kevin. Uh, I applaud any decisions people make, and that's important to say at the outset. If you choose to not get any of these vaccines, hey, I applaud choice. I always applaud choice. We start there. I also then, and this is where some people don't like it, I also will discuss, as much as you'll listen to my blathering, I will then discuss the mathematical likely consequences of choice. It's what we do. And that's the world I'm trapped in. I'm a logic guy. I have a computer science degree. I can't help but look at data in and algorithmic math and logic and how math works and science works and how created conditions result in results and how planets go around stars and I'm trapped there. I'm sorry. So when we make a choice, it's prudent to have some thought exercises and say, well, where could this end up? What are the potential possibilities? Is there something that's 100% possible? If you drive a speeding car to the edge of a cliff, it's 100% that you will go over it. If it's past a certain height, it's 100% that you will die. So we can do thought exercises and look at math and percentages. That's a ridiculous example, but hopefully it makes clear to people. Because I think what we're going through in this whole 2 years is math. And a devastating, unbelievable, extreme non-understanding of math. So anyway, we make choices and there's possible consequences. Only possible, right? So Kevin, I applaud your choice to take the booster. The high likelihood is that it will enhance your immunity to this horrific zoonotic novel virus, which is just about 2 years old. It's right about this day in 2019, give or take a couple of days, that scientists in China, medical people in China, announced that, yeah, there's this little blow up is happening right about now, November 2019. So we're talking percentages for you, Kevin. Those who choose to not have a vaccine and to not really delve into the science that they don't like and pick the parts that they do like, I do. I applaud your access to choice. I'm a choice guy. But then if you want to have the discussion of likely outcome and likely conditions, then we can have that. But y'all usually don't like to have that conversation. So that kind of sets up a few of the topics today. Other topics, I'm going to talk a lot about this tour. I've just been on tour with, wow, when I say one of the great influences in my life musically, that's in all caps, folks. When I say someone in the Mount Rushmore of my guitar reality, I mean, we're sitting in my studio. There's things I do. There's things like this synthesizer and that synthesizer and delving into types of setting up stereo on stage and things like that that have so much to do with this artist that I just work with. My approach to acoustic guitar is so informed by this artist and his work. So when I say that I'm still processing the reality that my life path, my journey, once again has got me the opportunity, which I'm grateful for, so grateful to work. And I'm grateful for the big picture that I've had 30 years of a career working on the road, that my passion for music, it's my life. It's just about, other than my life partner, like it's it, my life, my sisters, my partner, and music. That's it. The rest is fucking gravy. And so I give thanks once again to come home from a tour, to be working with yet another artist that I've grown up listening to, been inspired by, learned about approaches to music and harmony and musical history. I'm talking, of course, about Pat Metheny, who's now my boss, and I'm talking about that I'm going to struggle to put in words what this experience has been like for 19 days. So, or something like that. 19 days, yeah, 20 days. So I'm gonna try to give some snapshots of that. I've gotten a lot of great messages from you all wishing me luck. I really appreciate that. So much gratitude. In this week of gratitude and thanks, I give thanks all the time. As you all know, I try to be grateful, and along with trying to be compassionate. And so a lot of gratitude for all of you for tuning in. Those of you who tuned in, I did this on the road from some hotel rooms last week with kind of dodgy internet, and you were there, and we had a good time. I had to restart 2 or 3 times, at least. Was it 3 times? My battery died. So it was fun, though, and I appreciate y'all. So a lot of gratitude. Gratitude for this career. Gratitude to apply my passion for music history, music knowledge, music technology, advancing music, inspiring young people to get into music. In my opinion, one of the greatest human enterprises. To me, all art is. I love all art, but music obviously takes just a little extra, and so it was a heavy, heavy 20 days to work with one of the greats, one of the, I mean, there's not even, you know, but normal human being. So the yin yang of our image of people and their stardom and all that um, are something that I thought about a lot. Having said that, I'm very lucky going into this that I met Pat Metheny a couple of times as a fan, just like after show. You know, he was always very gracious, and I saw him do it. Saw him do it really because of COVID. He really only did it when his family was there a couple days ago, and everyone had masks on. You know, and this is I never talk about private things on tours, but this is public because it was in a venue. People were there, and so he was an inspiration to us all. Very careful. There was no hanging out and visits and people. You know, I never saw anyone. None of us in the crew. We all had a great bubble. Nobody went hanging out with friends and giving hugs and high-fiving strangers and all the things you do on a normal tour. I never left the property other than a couple quick walks alone in beautiful towns that we stopped in a couple times. And then on Saturday, we finished the tour in Northampton, Mass. I left for about 40 minutes to go to one of my favorite natural food stores, which I'm going to talk about today as I go over some things that I did. Amazing natural food store in Northampton, Mass. Beautiful town. And I went to this place and picked up a few things. But, you know, we exercised a bubble. There was 10 of us, and we just did it. We had COVID tests twice a week at least. We had masking all through set up and during the show for those of us in the crew. The band played without masks. But, I mean, it was interesting to see that you can do this. And that just like going out into space and maybe going to another planet where you'd have to think about your oxygen and how much water you have. And it was kind of interesting. Yeah, of course, I'm being metaphoric. It's much more difficult to go to another planet. But I think you understand the little point there. So other topics. The tour. Talking about staying healthy on the road, which I do all the time. I did real time on the road, and I'll talk about how I did. And I'm going to talk about some things that I take, and actually real time, because I haven't taken my supplements today. We'll talk about some stuff one by one. Talk about some foods I had on tour. I had great catering a couple times, but we ordered food quite a bit, and that was also new and very COVID era related. I'll talk about, I love airport restaurants. Not so much to eat. I barely do, because everything's 1.5 times the price, up to 3 times the price. I rarely do unless you have to. I do in Europe, where things are much more fairly priced for food. Europe has a bunch of things we could talk about on money, on price. But I love, as you know, I'm a kind of an amateur everything. I'm an amateur philosopher, though. I'm an amateur sociologist, anthropologist. I love watching people. So airports are the fucking best around planet Earth. I love it. And I take pictures, and I have a little series of photographs called Socialist Airport Luggage Carts. And what I do is collect pictures around the world: Australia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Peru, Chile, Netherlands, Germany, UK, Iceland, Norway, Israel, Turkey, all around the world, and places, that are still developing countries, places like Jamaica, places like Mexico, where they give you a fucking luggage cart. I love that. And you get back to the USA and you're fishing for your credit card or some money to pay for a motherfucking language cart. That's right. This is an R-rated show. I don't care. But it's just a funny thing because you go everywhere else and you get a fucking cart because you've just paid $1,000 for a plane ticket or $500 for a plane ticket or whatever your management team has paid. Give us a luggage cart. So it's a funny thing, and I just have some humor with it. So I love airports, and airport restaurants are spectacular because you kind of see some food trends and you see some things. And I took a few pictures, and what I've been noticing, and it goes to the theme of this show. Wow, so many plant-based options. So for travelers, for those of you who travel, those of you about to travel for Thanksgiving, which is also on my list of topics, Thanksgiving and plant-based options. And well, I'll just talk about that when I get to that. But the airports, you know, it's been amazing to see these things. And I took some pictures, and just off the top of my head, like Bobby Flay, he's got a restaurant, a big one in Atlanta and a few other places I've read about, but in Atlanta, and you go and it's got burgers, and it says right on the top, you know, beef, turkey, and veggie. I think it was turkey, maybe chicken, some other not beef burger. But the fact that veggie right there, equal billing, I mean, this is incredible, folks. It really, I love it. It's inspiring, and I'm again, all roads lead back to gratitude. That's my theme, especially this week. I have gratitude that something I became passionate about when Ronald Reagan was running for his second term. That's about when I last ate flesh, 1984 or so. Maybe it was 83, but let's call it 84. Because I know I quit some things and I ate seafood, and I had a piece of I had a piece of lobster like in late 83 or something. And I remember I was eating seafood and I thought, yeah, it's different. Stop pork, stop beef and chicken. And I kind of looked, I had to slice that lobster, and I looked at it and I could see the sinews, the muscle. And I thought, wow, it's just like chicken, really. And I thought about this animal, really. It's an animal. It's just in the crustacean, but it's in that umbrella. And I thought, they boil them alive. Wow, what a. And people will go, oh, they don't feel pain, but just why? What makes you think of that? That's another aspect. Why? Like, what the fuck? Leave the thing alone. Like, you know. And I know someone's going to say, leave the broccoli alone. You're steaming that. It's screaming. Wow. Okay. You know, that's a long discussion, but it's spurious because, well, for many reasons, but the primary reason is the environmental difference. One is highly sustainable, one is not. And we talk about that a lot, and I'm happy to. And I'm happy to live in a world where someone's telling me that lettuce is screaming at the top of its lungs for its life. And we could talk about the differences there. Anyway, that's the airport restaurant soliloquy, because it was amazing to see just about every. There was one, I forget what type of restaurant it was. Clearly, not everyone's on board. And it was like a steak place or something like that. But even in a steak place, you can get a salad, a baked potato. But all these places, Burger King, I just stuck my head in to see, and there it was, right with the, what's Burger King? The Whopper? Yeah, Burger King's the Whopper. They had the Whopper, and they had the, what was it called? Beyond Whopper or Impossible Whopper? I forget which one. I think they have Beyond Burger. But there it was. And I just kind of said, wow, you read about these things, and I could go get a veggie burger right this minute in McDonald's. In Burger King. I didn't, but and then there was an Asian place. I forget the name of it. Sure enough, and that's easy. Asian places for years have had things. But Panda Express has just recently introduced a vegan chicken sort of a thing, a sweet and sour thing, and a couple other things, and they've taken animal products out of some other. Panda Express, check them out. I think it's 6 different items have been folded into things, and they've really made it a whole other thing. So those are some of my topics. And then finally, Thanksgiving and what y'all are doing, and talk about some food things. And yeah, my 37th year not eating a fucking turkey. You know, sorry, turkey industry. I pardon the turkey every year. So I'm ahead of each of the presidents who does it 4 times or 8 times. All right, so let's get back to your stuff that you've posted so far. And I want to drink some water. I always dehydrate on this show. So while I'm looking at your messages, I will. Aloha. Took too long to drink water. I haven't drank water in too fucking long. Bad move. I did have some soup for lunch, so there was some water, but that's not good enough. Don't count soup and coffee and water and tea. All right, so getting back. Uh, Sharon is here. Hey, hello. Steve Hershey is here. Hey. Uh, oh, Steve also getting your booster. Great. And Lori got hers. Hey, well, you heard me saying, you know, let's see. Richard's getting his booster. Wow, it's booster. It's booster romper room today. I see Kevin, and I see Steve, and I see Richard. I'd like to see some of my anti-vax people. And remember, anti-vaxxers, you're invited on my show anytime, any day. Let's talk live. But I've had 3 or 4 of you say, "Oh, I'm shy," or "Oh, I don't like to do that," or "I'd rather." Why not? Why don't you want to talk real time? Come on, come on the show. Uh, one of the things I want to talk to one of y'all that can do that without Googling and sending me crazy videos and spurious debunked shit. Let's hear you sit and defend your perspective on a global pandemic generated by a novel zoonotic virus. Those are the facts to start with. And we're at the 2-year anniversary, so it's a topic. It's also just another article linking things even more likely. Again, everything's likelihood, right? Everything's possibility, but even more likelihood that we're talking about a wet market situation has been. There's an article a couple of days ago. Someone just sent me. You know, and again, we don't know for sure, but you high likelihood if you go study anything about these wet markets and the things that have already popped out of there, hepatitis actually, and salmonella and E. coli outbreaks and a number of other ones I'm forgetting. What's the other one? Shit, it's another ISIS, and it's not ISIS, the terrorists. Let's start a rumor, say it's ISIS. But a bunch of shit breaks out when you cram a bunch of animals that wouldn't live together in the wild into a crazy football field area and you dehydrate them and you starve them and they're fearful and they're smelling other animals that would normally kill them and they are next to crammed into others of their species and they're shitting and they're pissing and they're ejecting I forget the name of the stuff that is it estrus or all kinds of body fluids start happening in these animals that are wild. Estrus, that's the recurring period of sexual receptivity and fertility in female mammals. Yeah, it's not estrus, but there's a fluid that some female mammals will exude, especially under stress when they're in that space of time, that period. All kinds of things. I've read a lot about this. You should too. Wet markets are a fucking nightmare. And so when we first had some real forensic work pointing to wet markets, it really makes sense. You can like it or not. When people poo-poo it, I automatically realize they haven't read anything about wet markets. Sorry to be a prick, but yeah. Go read about wet markets. Read about 30 years of wet markets. It's a problem. Now, you then have this neoliberal thing that says, "Oh, that's racist. You're talking about Chinese people." No, it's not racist. Because I would criticize the same nightmares in African countries where there's horrific situations with bush meat and horrific, unclean and cruel, devastatingly inhumane conditions for some of these animals. Ergo, Ebola and other things that have happened. We're lucky. The half a dozen other things that happen in these countries don't become pandemic, but you should look them up. There's shit all the time based on how we trap, kill, torture, murder, imprison just to eat animals. It's fucked. And you hear me talk about it all the time. I respect you if you choose to consume flesh. I just urge that you figure out a way to support as humane of a gathering situation as you can. Organic farmers, wild caught salmon and things like that, wild caught deer and things like that. I get it. That's, you're going to eat that, but you can't argue for the way it is now. And the wet market thing points to that. So we'll talk about that as well. And as all these things, I'll get into some specific articles. All right. Thanks for your points so far. So Romper Room, that's where we were. Kevin Ritchie is probably gone now. He had to go getting a haircut. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it, bro. Benny and the Jets. What's up, Benny? Good to see you. Tra! We always have the Benny Rodriguez greeting. Bassam says, thank you, Mr. Trump. Better than Beijing Biden and Bidenflation. That's great. Bidenflation. That's awesome. Let's see. Crustaceans do feel pain, yes. Prepernelli, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Pete. Send me that article, And it's a tough one, bro. You and I talk about this all the time. My buddy Pete is and his dear wife are what word we've talked about it. They're flexitarians. They love vegetarian food. They love, but they're qualitarians. Like that's where we overlap. They love quality food, and they will have some really high quality flesh. They'll eat some different things, right, Pete? I can't speak for you, but tell me if I'm incorrectly characterizing. Pete's a great chef. His dear other half's a great chef. They love vegetarian food, but yeah, they'll have some really good fish, some really good turkey or chicken, and the occasional very good quality beef or bison or things like that. But I know, Pete, you also like some good seafood. You live near the sea. So I know it's a tough thing because you're a passionate environmentalist. And that's the Venn diagram right there that I love discussing on this show. Where's our environmentalism slash or Venn diagrammed with enjoying the foods of human culture and of the world? And the other circle is our health, and another circle is compassion for animals. And where does this all overlap? So thank you for pointing that out, and please put a link there on crustaceans. Sharon says, remembers the pre-medicines. Yeah, pain pathway, sure. I've read about that shit for years. That, yeah, there's, yeah. 57 boosters is a little extreme. I'm not going to do that. Oh, Listeria, that's a good one. Thank you, guys. Salmon Newton, good to see you, my friend. Listeria, that's another one. Outbreak. So yeah, there's all this stuff. So, let's talk about some food. I'm going to jump to that part of my trip, and I'm going to pull some things up. Let's see if I can get the technology going. Let's see. I got a lot of technology here. I'm relearning it. I've been away from this room for 19 days or something. Oh, my camera just went off. All right. Press button to activate movie shooting. How about that? All right. So that camera's not going to come on. I figured out a way to get this old Canon, it's at least 10 years old, to be a camera. But it timed out. All right, so what we're going to talk about is just some of the food stuff. So let's do that. If I do, let me do this. But I'll just speak generally while we're talking. But you know what? Let me start with supplements. I'll start with some supplements because I need to take my supplements. So on the road, I try to do it all the time, and I've talked about this. Sorry, responding to another important thing here. I started right when this pandemic began. I think late in March, started talking about optimizing your immunity and things that we could do, and a range of possibilities. I'm not the definitive, uh, but I'm a pretty good source, having had a long professional life, something like 15, um, 10, yeah, between 15 and 20 years, about 17 years in natural foods retail, and that's an incredible bunch of experiences. But I talked at that point about things we could do to optimize our immune system. And for me, it's motivation. It's like remembering to take stuff and doing it every day, and working it into your life. And also knowing that it's uh, food is the number one source. When you think vitamin C, eat more citrus, eat more parsley, eat more green vegetables, all of which have vitamin C. Eat acerola cherries, or regular cherries, whatever. Acerola is just very high. Eat berries. All these things have vitamin C. Peppers, green peppers, did you know, have a lot of vitamin C? So your first line of defense is eat the foods. When you hear about quercetin being really good, or bioflavonoids, or I don't know, lycopene in tomatoes and other red things, then eat those things. How is this so hard? People are like, well, is there a pill I can get? So that's my first thing to remind you. When you hear chlorophyll is good, eat more chlorophyll. Jeez, but it does have to be said to remind us. So that's important. We keep reading about minerals. Eat high mineral rich food. Eat high mineral food, which are a lot of root vegetables, green leafy things, dark greens, kale, collards, chard, broccoli, broccoli rabe, dandelion, purslane, arugula, all kinds of things like that. Spinach probably last on that list, but wonderful food, spinach, but it's not a powerhouse. Um, so um, those are some of the things I talked about. For me, it's about staying uh, dedicated and doing it every day. And I'm much better, especially during this pandemic, and we have them out on the counter. So take these things um, more regularly. But on tour, wow, touring for me, I love it. I optimize my sleep, I optimize my eating, I optimize my immune support stuff. I don't know. I'm just someone who needs structure. I need that. You've got to be somewhere by 10 a.m., not at 10 a.m., by 10 a.m. These days started. And then everything happens in a grid. Lunch is a certain time. The first sound check's a certain time. Line check, certain time. The sound check's a certain time. Pat arriving is a certain time. Or whoever it is. The guys in Mo, Steve Howe, and yes, the guys in 10 Years After. Whatever tour I'm on, Eddie Jobson, my own tours at Project Object, you have a schedule. You have a grid. And then something happens at 5:30. And then it's doors. And then I just thrive on that. I do pretty well, not on tour, but I just excel at pulling the shit all together. So one thing I do is stay on my vitamin regimen. So just in general terms, um, I will share with you, just for me, a real uh, real basic list of of kind of some things to maybe take this list and then say, well, I can manage these four things or something. Um, and I urge you to do a little research on some of these and pick and choose. But this is, you know, um, oops, let me get this. I'm going to drop a little list into the, okay, right, into the chat. And then I'll talk about which ones I managed to, oh, shit. Okay. Um, There we go. Jeez, why is that not letting me? Huh. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to paste this into my comment. Okay, there we go. Oh, jeez. I see. It just did it like a couple times. Haha. Okay. It wasn't letting me edit that. Okay, great. So I will fix that. Um, ba, 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 ba. All right. So anyway, I put a little, just a, this is off the top of my head. I wrote this for talking to a friend yesterday, and I thought, oh yeah, let's use that list. Um, those are basics. I mean, we really should be looking at all of those if you can. But if you want to pick kind of the greatest hits there, vitamin C is, if you can only take one thing. Wow, because vitamin C is so important and pulls together so many other things. It helps you with digestion, helps you with absorption of iron, helps you with absorption of some other minerals and vitamins. And vitamin C is so important to our immune system. It's very interesting vitamin C, and I urge you to read about it. I urge you to read about everything I'm talking about. What do I know? I know a bunch, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. But I'm someone who's here to share some knowledge with you that comes from, again, I don't say it enough. You know, pushing 20 years of, that's just behind the counter in retail and over a decade of co-ownership, but many more years of doing lectures, doing workshops in a couple states, in a couple cities. In fact, in Venezuela, I even went there once in 1991 to talk about Earth Day and environmental impact of animal agriculture. So I'm just trying to share, and I'm bringing in this chapter of my life, it's giving back decades, and it's about saying, okay, let's turn around the stuff I've learned and try to see who can get a little bit out of it. And I appreciate those of you who've gotten things out of it. I get something out of it because it reminds me to stay on the program. So so anyway, so those are some things. Vitamin A, vitamin B complex. I try to take all these things I listed, but vitamin C, if you can only take one thing, is super important. Hopefully, you can take a few of these things. And as I said at the top, I'm not saying get a bunch of pills and potions. Get as much of this from the food as you can. Eat some parsley, folks. Eat some fresh fruit every day. Okay? Wow. Some argue that we are frugivores. We are close to the apes, that we are close cousins of, who eat massive amounts of fruit. You know, we're definitely herbivore, frugivore, and we definitely can eat things that are not plant or plant based. And we obviously grew up eating whatever we could find, which would include beetles, worms. Opening up a tree is what early humans did, and oh, termites. We ate them. We ate insects. It was a long time before we were taking down large animals and eating them. We ate mice and birds, and we stole eggs. We stole honey. We ate what was very easy to eat, being the shittiest hunter on the planet. Think about it. And people who make the argument that we're made to eat meat, well, we could have I'd love to do a show. Come on my show. Let's talk about it. Because biology does not support that. It supports, though, what I'm saying is that we were more gatherers than hunters. We just got what we could get easily. We don't have fangs. We don't have claws. We can't run very fast compared to a rabbit or a gazelle or a lot of these things. We domesticated these very slow animals, you know, half a million years later or whatever it shakes out. And we we certainly, you know, we learned how to fish. We learned how to trap animals. We're smarter. So we learned how to make pits and then put grass and things over them and then chase animals they fell in and died on stakes. We're smart motherfuckers. And we could trick animals all day long. So I want you to think about that. We're tricksters, but we don't have fangs. We don't have claws. We're not designed for this. Our intestines are much longer than our bodies, which is not true in true hunting carnivores. Our intestines are puckered and, you know, are made to massage fiber through our system. Not so in a tiger, a lion, true carnivorous hunting animals. Our blood pH, our saliva pH matches up with frugivores and herbivore animals. Our teeth, the way they're wired, and the molars in the back, and the lack of tearing fangs. Everyone likes to say, well, I have these. I have a friend who says, I have these. You ain't doing shit with that, man. If you want to go out and try to fuck with a rabbit will fuck you up. A rabbit! Never mind an angry deer. You'll take an eye out. So you're not doing anything with these. Sorry. Grow your nails. They'll break trying to actually do what real hunting carnivores do. Having said that, we're humans. We choose. And what I just said is important for the vegans to listen to. Because you have some vegans who like to pretend that humans are, inherently vegans. We're not. We're inherently, and I've read volumes of shit about this. I'll easily provide sources for you. But it's logical. Just think about it. We clearly weren't vegans and like not eating eggs and honey, right? 500,000 years ago. We ate what we could eat easily. And as I just said, that's by any logical analysis going to mostly be plant material. It's very easy to walk around as an early naked human and and eat a fruit and eat leaves and eat things, and some things made you throw up and some things made you die and you didn't know. And but you also ate ants and things that worms. You just ate shit. You got calories into your body, and you ate, as I said, mice and rodents and things that you were in a cave and things scurried by and you smashed them with a rock and you ate them. You had no, and we know this from the fossil record and looking at fossilized humans and things that are around them. We know from little bones that we find in caves and in, these are all nerdy things that I read about. And I urge you to. Human history of nutrition is fascinating. And when you look at when the Ice Age came or when humans started moving around the planet into areas where food availability changed, yes, the need to hunt these larger animals suddenly arose. And we have that. But what I'm always here to take apart is the 2021 relationship with flesh and animal agriculture and what it does to the environment. So just want to have clarity on that. Okay. Supplements then. So I'll talk about this one. I just got this one the other day, and man, I'm going to need my reading glasses. These things get tinier and tinier, right? I'll just hold it up to the camera. Does it focus? Well, it's not focusing really well. Immune season. I thought this is pretty cool. I like things that are easy and quick to, and you just get your dosage by a bunch of squirts. And some of these things have a good range. Some of them say right on there, if you're in the middle of something, do this 4 times a day or 3 times a day. Half a dozen squirts gives you X amount of milliliters. It's actually very clear. And if it's just for maintenance, you do that once a day. There's a real range of helping you understand how much you want to get into your body. Definitely if you're going through something, that kind of regular few times a day. And that's true with Advil, right? If you have some pain, you take some Advil and then you take some 6 hours later or whatever it says. Advil is like the one drug I take like a couple times a year. Like if I fuck myself up or when I am working out, if your shoulders are sore. And I've been prone to back issues over the years. Very rare that I take Advil. I had some on this tour with me, never took it. Haven't taken it in months. But it's like the one pharmaceutical that I have in my life. And knock on wood, I'm a 56-year-old black man. When I get my checkups, they can't believe I'm not on a prescription. They just can't believe it. They're like, but you're supposed to. Are you lying? Is there things that we don't need this shit? So I say that all to say that dosage is important. Read the bottle, learn about it. So this it's an alcohol base, which is really your best way to extract herbs is in alcohol. There's people who can't consume alcohol. So there's alcohol-free herbs, which are in a glycerin Some of them are made in alcohol. The alcohol is evaporated out of there, and there's a few ways to make herbs. But keep that in mind. The absolute best way to extract the excipients in herbs, the elements of herbs that have the real medical is the word to use, the real medical effect and power, where the research has been done. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, that stuff." There's no. Well, you're not looking it up. There's decades of research on echinacea, on golden seal, on andrographis, on ashwagandha, on ginseng, on various mushrooms. Decades of research. Make some effort. Go look for it. One of the places you can look, one of the greatest places, is the Germans. The Germans have the Commission E, which was the K, and the Commission E is kind of their FDA slash EPA. It's kind of a they cover all kinds of substances in commerce, and they look at safety of drugs and of herbs. But they do a lot of research, and so the Germans have done a lot of research on a lot of these things, and it's good because it shows you, maybe there's a little hype over on this topic, but maybe here's something with really good efficacy, and it has to be in this dose and this purity level. So the Germans, as with many things, apply a great deal of science to the whole area of plant-based things, herbs. So anyway, I just got this on Saturday in Northampton. I thought, let's try that out. That's pretty cool. Here's one of my go-tos that I talked about this last week on the show, but some of you who weren't there, I'll just mention that. I love it so much. Wellness formula. It comes in tablets, and it comes in a liquid that I like. Oh, and I didn't say what's in this. If I can squint, and I just need more light. There's not enough light in here. So this is black elderberry. We know elderberry is great, and I've got another product with elderberry. Astragalus. Wow, what a great tonic and tonifying herb. Astragalus. Can't say enough about astragalus root. Echinacea is in there. Eleuthero root. Ginger rhizome. Wow. Ginger's another one. Vitamin C and ginger. If you have those in your life, wow. Along with just eating well, those both potentiate everything else you're doing. So, so that's a good one. Wellness compound. Again, sorry if you're bored by this because I did it last week, but some of you weren't here. This also is echinacea. There's a yin chow formula, a Chinese herbal formula. The Chinese pharmacopoeia is another one that's really incredible. Wow. There's some basic philosophies that I have a problem with Chinese medicine, and it's very simple. One of the things with Chinese medicine is they tend to approach ailments and conditions and challenges with a management outlook. In other words, if you've got gout pain, they'll give you stuff with gout to help gout pain, and that's nice. Help the person with the gout pain. But let's talk about the gout. Why do you have gout? And so the Chinese medical thing, and I've talked to Chinese practitioners, both Chinese ones and Western ones. I love it. And again, in a natural foods retail environment, we had a lot of Chinese herbs. And again, please hear what I'm saying. I salute the Chinese history of knowledge. Amazing. You all need to read about that if you don't know, and to read about acupuncture and acupoints and the things that the Chinese understood about the nervous system, about neurology, neurological situations, and about cancers, actually, and tumors and things, the importance of the human liver. Wow, Chinese, incredible knowledge. But then again, there's this weird thing where they kind of look at stuff and they go, yeah, here's something for this ailment. And I'm always like, well, let's get the hell rid of the ailment. So it's just a small thing. And I'm generalizing. Of course, there's Chinese practitioners who integrate the idea of, hey, let's get the person a healthier diet, and maybe they won't have diabetes instead of giving something to maintain diabetes. But anyway, some really good stuff to pull from. So this yin chow formula is in here. There's, again, ginger root, again, elderberry. There's a little overlap with that other one. Eleuthero, horehound, bayberry, some really great stuff. I like this one a lot. Their main things, though, are the Echinacea coptis and the Yin Chow, which is Yin Chow is a formula. I won't go through each one, but you can look that up. I can't recommend this product enough, folks. So you find this in any Whole Foods or any good natural foods. And two things I'll say: I don't make many direct recommendations, but when I do, but one of them. So Source Naturals is a great company, and I'm talking to you with 30 years of dealing with these people at this company. The owners, the managers, the folks, I've looked them in the eye. I've talked to them at trade shows. We've ordered from them. Amazing company with the dedication to to this whole thing. They're not fly by night, and they come from a very, very good and early place in this movement. I love their logo too. What a beautiful logo! Look at that, right? It's kind of an eclipse, kind of the sun going over a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. Or whatever. You can make up whatever planet you want. But it's a beautiful energetic of kind of, you know, eclipsing health and nutrition. So I love this. And as I said, we're gonna go live today and take my supplement. So the this I take about 4. It says about a 45 drop dose. How many times a day? 3 times daily. Okay. Yeah, I try to shoot for that. But wellness formula, really awesome. Let's come back to some of your questions here. So, yes, Sharon says sheer panic and fear. Yes, yep, it's all about the fear. All these animals are freaking out. I'm telling you, folks. I'm going to put an article up. We're going to get to that of the wet markets. Let's see. MRM Nutrition Vegan Vitamin D3. Yeah, great. 2,500 IU. That's a good dose. I take about. It was the one thing I was low in was D, and my checkup recently, and I take 7 or 8,000 IU's a day. Probably back to normal, but I'm gonna keep doing it, especially going into the winter. Okay, so I listed some vitamins there and some herbs. Okay, I'm going down the list. So I take some sort of, I take a multi, like a over 40 multi, and a really good one. And I'm not gonna bore you with, but just get the good one, please. Don't get the fucking Walgreens brand or the supermarket brand. It's nonsense. Spend the money. Spend the money. My rule of thumb is if you're not spending at least $1 a day, then you're not buying the right multivitamin. Sorry. Yeah, it's $30 and up a day. There ain't no fucking multi that's $7.99 that's doing you any good. Just stop it. You know, I don't talk about this enough. Don't be a cheapskate for your health, right? You'll buy those shoes that are too expensive. You'll buy that fucking, I don't know, people buy so much shit. I can't believe it. You'll take that vacation and gladly take the extra day, and it's another several $100s. But then you're standing in that aisle and looking at vitamins and going, well, that one's on sale for $4.99. Stop it. You are worth this. Spend the motherfucking money. That's the word of the day, by the way, because I had an incident with someone talking about curse words. And my one person that I don't want to curse in front of is my great aunt. She doesn't like it when I curse, so I'm sorry, Aunt Neela, if you're hearing this. But the whole thing's a satirical exercise. Anyway, spend the money. $30 and up. I'm an average here, but I'm sure there's a vitamin on sale that's, $22.99 at Whole Foods or a good natural food store. So, but you get what I'm saying. It's not $7.99. It's not $11.99. And it goes from there. There are vitamins out there that are $60 for a month, one a day, and we can go back and forth. there's a lot of mail order things, a lot of things, ads you see on Instagram and stuff. There is a hype. There is an overpriced thing on a lot of natural foods. I can help you sift that out. I've seen all these products. I've seen so many of these things. Happy to have people bring stuff up on the show and ask questions. Not necessarily that there was questions about that. You're just saying you take that, so that's great. But do keep that in mind. That for a multi, get the good one. Get something with real good doses in it. Guy asks a great question. Is it beneficial to just pick a variety of cultures for the grocery basket? Absolutely. Such great news. Such great info there, Guy. I shop like that. We shop like that all the time. And I eat like that. If I'm at catering, which I was a couple times on this tour, not so much because of COVID, but a couple times. But if it's good catering, yeah, man. Oh, there's some purple cabbage. There's, some tomatoes and maybe cherry tomatoes here, and then there's watermelon and strawberries on the fruit tray. So you got some red, you got purple with the cabbage. Oh, there's some green. There's some kale, a green salad, some arugula. You know what? There's some parsley that's a garnish over here. I'm going to eat some of that parsley. So green, purple. You got reds. Eat an apple. Green apples. Absolutely, Guy. That is you heard good information. I've heard that many times. I've seen that substantiated many times. I've read articles about that being substantiated. Absolutely. You eat oranges, you eat grapefruits, lemons, limes. Right there's 4 colors in the wonderful citrus world. Each of them a little bit of a different compound happening. Peppers are an incredible, incredible powerhouse. We don't acknowledge that enough. A sweet pepper. Wow, so much vitamin C. There's minerals in there. There's other vitamins in there. But the yellow peppers versus the orange peppers versus the red peppers versus the purple peppers. You see those sometimes. Wow. Really special nutrition in all of those. The carotenoids, the lycopene, all the different compounds that make the colors. I'm forgetting the name. The cyanthins. All this shit's off the top of my head. I used to know all this like that, but uh, um, anyway, you can look this up. It doesn't matter though. And that's the thing. I see the yin yang view of all this stuff. You can get into the science, you can memorize all this stuff, you can see how many milligrams you're getting. Ancient humans didn't do that. They just ate a variety of stuff. And we now know we can add science into that and we can fine tune it. And that's exactly right, Guy. Shop the rainbow. If you're and people say shop the edges of the supermarket. That's a little bit of a mixed bag because there's lots of dead flesh on one end of them, and I don't advocate that for your optimized nutrition. But sure, the unpackaged grapes and peppers and avocados and limes and cabbages, those should be in your shopping cart, or you're doing it less than optimal level. Yes, on the colors, Guy. Thank you. Let's see. Well, I'm going through the questions here. Is that the same formula as the tablet wellness formula? Sharon asks. Yes, it is. Same stuff. Convenience. There's some slightly different. Well, it's the same stuff, but you can, I think, get your exact dosage of stuff with the tablet. Obviously, with the drops, it's kind of an average. It says 45 drops for this amount. I've counted it, and it's about 12 to 15 in a bottle, in a dropper. So I kind of, take 4 or 5 droppers full. But sure, same stuff, and I take the tablets sometimes. Sometimes it's a space thing, and also liquid gets right into your system a little bit faster. So someone swears by wellness. Yep, absolutely. And taking it under the tongue. Yeah, there's a lot of debate on that. Really, what you want to do is whatever you do, get some water in there pretty soon after, because it's in your mouth. It doesn't really matter. And actually, the optimal way, and this is from herbalists. This is from my late partner who was a certified herbalist and studied with one of the master herbalists on earth, David Winston, and had some lectures with one of the other master herbalists on earth, Susan Weed. That's Susun. Look her up, Susan Weed. Look up David Winston. These are amazing, committed, brilliant people who are dedicated to helping others optimize health. to helping others learn about plant-based nutrition. I can't say enough about those two human beings. Wow. I know David a lot better. Met Susan Weed a couple times, but just her readings and looking at some lectures and things. Brilliant, amazing, powerful woman. The knowledge, I can't tell you enough. If there's one thing today, you look up Susan Weed, Susun, and check out her life journey and how she's sharing her knowledge of plants. Likewise, David Winston, who has Cherokee background, and he comes down here to right where we live nearby. We live in right near, we're in Cherokee country here. There's hundreds of tribes that were in this part of the earth. The Cree, the Iroquois, right? All kinds of people, the Blackfeet people, the Apaches, the Lakota, the Sioux. I urge people to learn some tribal names, especially, that's another thing on my Thanksgiving list. Many of them don't want to be called Indians. This was not India. That was Columbus and his fuck up. It's not India. They're not Indians, many of them argue. Some of them are fine with it. And so I honor whatever their journey is on, because they know better than us. But very many of them say, learn that I am Sioux. Learn that I am Apache and Iroquois. Learn that I'm Cree, and read about what happened. Read about the colonizers and what happened. Please read about my people, my Piscataway people. All those names in the Northeast, all these towns and cities, not all of them, but many of them, Massapequa, anything with the qua on the end is often a tribal word, a tribal name. Can we do that? Just spend a few minutes. Look up who these folks are. Deb Holland, our Interior Secretary, right? Everything's off the top of my head today. I think she's Lakota and Norwegian. She's a great mix of two amazing cultures. But Deb Holland is somebody where I love it, because people are learning about her tribal culture. And it's so wonderful to have a tribal person, an indigenous person, running the interior. Wow. It took us this long. The people who were here to have a part in this. It's amazing. She is a Laguna Pueblo. She's a Laguna Pueblo person, and her so that's her mom, and her dad is Norwegian. I remembered that correctly, but I got the Lakota part wrong. I apologize, Deb. Read about Deb Haaland, Haaland. Wow, she's got a great story, and she's been a great Secretary of the Interior so far. And for all his good and bad, I applaud Biden, and I kick him in the balls where he deserves it, which is many, many places. But I applaud him for his cabinet, because he was in that time. You better fucking adhere to some promises, bro. And he did. He got some people with great resumes, and Deb Haaland is one of them. But I'm riffing here on Native people, and they many of them prefer to be called Native or Indigenous or by the name of their tribe. That's all. Some of them say, I'm Indian, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll call you that. But very, very many would like the former. For us to learn just a little bit. It's so deep that we when someone's Irish, we don't just lump it in and say, well, you're European. We respect that they're Irish. We call them Irish. I have Polish friends. I have friends from every country practically. But if I have a Polish friend, I don't say, well, I'll call you what I want. We don't do that. We don't do that to European people specifically. Someone's Italian, and they're saying, yeah, I'd like to be called Italian American, or my grandmother's Italian. I'm proud Italian. Yeah, you're a European. It doesn't matter. But we fucking do that. We just decide, yeah, you're Native American. So one of the things I like to talk about around Thanksgiving, this purported holiday, to give thanks to these folks who were so brutally destroyed. Not destroyed, because they're still here. And it's part of our duty as all Americans to learn about them, to uplift them, to honor what they've been through. and to have situations where folks like Deb Haaland are in control of some of the resources. Folks like Deb Haaland who understand more than us some of the journeys of people of her background. People like Deb Haaland, who's been to these reservations, and black people have been to these reservations, white people, Indians from India, Chinese people. I'm not saying we can all get together on this, but let's let the folks at the center of this situation get a little more of a voice. So think about that on Thanksgiving. So I branched off there from David Winston, who is so amazing. It's just a major part of my health journey. Wonderful man. So look up Susan Weed, that's S-U-N, and the Susan. Look up David Winston. And he integrates especially the Cherokee medicine knowledge, the plant knowledge, centuries of knowledge that he knows. And he integrates that with the Western knowledge and with some Chinese knowledge. He's studied it all. And David is deep, man. He's done decades of sweat lodges and deep, deep meditative work with the Cherokee people, his Cherokee people. His background is Jewish also and Cherokee. So he's got, again, a wonderful mix of the human story. And so he brings some European knowledge and some American, Western herbal plant knowledge. He brings some world knowledge. I've talked to the guy about African herbology, South American herbology, Indian Ayurvedic herbology, Japanese herbology, Chinese. Amazing. These people are amazing. We're lucky to have them. He's got a company called Herbalist and Alchemist. And they're, somebody I get a lot of herbs from. So that was all, as I was pausing with my drink of water, that was all to point out that, so what I've heard from, master herbalists and people like him is take a little mouthful of water, hold the water in your mouth, and then put the drops of water in that and swallow that. So now you've made a solution. The other way is in a little glass, have a little bit of water, just a sip of water, and put your dosage in the water. And then drink that water, and then put some more water, swirl around the glass. Do it a couple of times so you make sure that you get all the herbs in there, into your... But those are the two ways. Under your tongue actually isn't really that great because then it's kind of in the sclera or whatever that's called under your tongue. And that's nice, but unless you get some water in there and get it into your alimentary system right after that, then, it's just kind of hanging out. So, or it's not optimal. Of course, you're swallowing and your saliva brings it along. It's not useless to put it under your tongue, but it's less than optimal. So, I'm going to put David Winston, my dear friend. I love the man, and I just heard the bad news that his wonderful mom passed away last year during COVID. Wonderful woman, Marilyn Winston, who was one of the managers and directors, the board of directors at the George Street Co-op, which is my alma mater, first natural food store I worked in, starting around 1989. I encountered this store around 1987 or something, 86, 87. Wow, changed my life. And I worked there for a few years. And I got to visit on this tour. And I've got a little video that I hope to get to today. What's our time? 4:10. Okay, we're doing well. So let's go back to your questions. And I'll continue on herbs and supplements. Let's see. So yeah, Scott. And Scott, Sherry must have told you that somewhere along the line. Again, I'm not arguing per se. I'm expanding on that, hopefully. That, yeah, it's you'll get it under your tongue, but have a big gulp of water right after and kind of swirl around. Make sure you wash it out from under your tongue and then get it. Because really, you want to absorb it here in your digestion. You want it to go to your stomach. You want it to go into your body. Now, once in a while, there's things for the throat where, yes, you want it like a throat spray or slippery elm or something. Right. That is going to the throat, so that's a little different. Good to keep in your mouth as long as you can. Again, that's kind of folk legend. Not really. You're digesting this. You're digesting these things. So, again, as I just pointed out some exceptions, if it is something for the mouth, let's say it's something it's golden seal, and you've got a tooth infection. Okay, you want it in your mouth because that's where the spot of application needs to be. Um, Propolis, you're doing some mouthwash with propolis or something. You get my point. If it's a mouth-oriented thing, your teeth, your mouth, your tongue, your throat, then. But other than that, that's kind of a, yeah, one of those. There's many things that float around, and people say in natural food stores, and it's just not true. So, yeah, juice is one of my favorites too. I hear people say, "Why?" I mean, okay, let's explore it though. If there's some lemon, say, in the juice, then yeah, okay. Having it in your mouth, it's very astringent. That vitamin C on your teeth and your gums, sure, that's awesome. Actually, the whole juice, the chlorophyll on your gums, yeah. So juice is one where it there's some sort of thing, but I don't think that's what the hippie making your juice is thinking about. They believe in magic, and you know, that's the right part company with the whole natural foods hippie thing. Uh, but yeah, you're digesting it. It's food. It's liquid food. Get it into your stomach. That's really where 99% of the efficacy is happening. Um, Thomas Brendan Murphy, good to hear from you. Thank you. Gratitude for you stopping by. It's a day of gratitude. It's a week of gratitude. I thank you, really. It gives me the chance to hopefully share this journey. If one person says, you know what, I found out something and it helped me with my life, and so many of you have said that, I walk around with that. I really thank you for this chance every Monday. So Thomas, to see you here is awesome. And Tim also. Good to see you, Tim. Great just seeing some people I haven't seen in a while. And Everett, haven't seen you in a bit. Your meds come from the reservation. There you go. Native Americans, as it were, are in tune medicinally. Susan Weed, and that's Susun actually, is, I just say this because she's, really definitive about it. It's super wonderful, and her story is touching. Yes, it is. She's awesome, and she really is. And both her and David Winston, they talk to plants, man. They're hardcore. They're not fooling around. They're like, they've done spiritual journeys. I don't know if either of them have taken something like ayahuasca, but I know they've taken some plants and they've gone down some roads. So Susan Weed, wonderful human being. I've only met her a couple of times back in the co-op days, but I don't know her like I know David Winston. Um, but it's here's a link to her website as well. She is superb. So that's really great, Anne. And yeah, many indigenous cultures around the world are in tune medicinally, right? And I'm not sure if you just jumped on, but I was just talking about that, how there's Peruvians who have incredible plant knowledge, and really every country that's got an indigenous population, and that includes Ireland and Poland, and sometimes we exoticize a lot of this knowledge like it's everywhere. Ancient Japanese had some very incredible things that they learned about plants and roots and seeds and things you can make, teas and things. People in what's called Botswana right now had that knowledge. People in Australia, the Aborigines, the original people in that island. Anywhere we go, right? Anywhere we go, people had knowledge of the basics. The ancient Celts had this knowledge. Ancient Egyptians had this knowledge, right? Ancient Mexicans, Aztec, Mayans, right? Ancient people in Ethiopia. Right? You can't name a place where people, the ancient Icelandics, which were Vikings that came over. So the ancient Vikings, all these folks around our planet. It's pretty simple. It's humans. They're going to try things with plants. Once they learn how to boil water, you boil the plants and see what happens. And it's fascinating to me, though, how did they discover certain things without communication with the plants? Because that's where it gets heavy. And I've had some conversations with David Winston about this. And he says, well, it's simple. We speak to the plants. That's part of the tribal approach to this. You go into those sweat lodge meditative type trances, or in South American tribes, it's ayahuasca and different things. You come back from those journeys, you have spoken to plants, and you understand that this vine will do that, and this flower and this herb, this seed will do that. It's some crazy shit. We could do a whole show on plant-based. I need to get a guest on here that's an expert on that. I should reach out to David. That would be great if he can come on. But all this stuff you can read about. You know, fantastic fungi, that uh, documentary on Netflix about fungi. It touches on a little bit of this with the fungi and the tribal knowledge of some of these things. So humans figured it out all around planet Earth. So that's great, and that you get your stuff from the reservation. Tell us more about that. Do you tell us what reservation, if you care to share that, or even if you tell us what state you're talking about? So you go to the reservation and you have medicine folks that you actually buy things from. Tell us. Let's learn here. Is it in a tea form, powder? How do they sell it to you? Like what's the I love that, because that is going to the source. Wow. That's awesome info there, Anne. So so okay, we've done the wellness formula, we've done the immune. Here's another one that I take once in a while. I didn't take this at all on this trip, although I had some elderberry in my other formulas. But if I really feel like something's going on, you got to bring out the big guns. And one of the big guns for respiratory health, for healthy immune system, incredible stuff. You read about the scientific research on black elderberry, folks. It is an amazing little fruit. It's a superfood, really. And you probably see a pattern that most berries are. You would do well to get berries in your life on a regular basis. Blueberries, naseberries, gooseberries, strawberries, right? Raspberries, all kinds of berries, elderberries. Berries are incredible. And clearly something that, as I talked about earlier, humans ate what was easy, all those years ago. And berries were incredibly easy. There they are on a bush. And we've bred some of them to be much sweeter these days. But even a wild berry has a little sweetness to it, wild blueberries. So humans were rewarded with that taste response and would eat them more. It's pretty amazing how nature works. So Sambucus is a product. And I also want to highlight another company, Nature's Answer. Wow, great company. I've never seen anything they make that I have a problem with. Really great company. And they got the dose on there. All I'll say is, if you want to support your immune system this winter, wow, one of the best things you can do is get this product in your plant-based pharmacopoeia, in your plant-based medicine cabinet. Wow, Sambucus. And there's a few other brands. This is one of the best ones. Look around. I'm sure there's a couple other brands, like in a really good store, Whole Foods. There's no discounts on this stuff, though, folks. I said that before. Stay away from the GNC, Walgreens stuff that's, $4.99. It's crap. And that's the stuff that gives natural products a bad name. You're going to spend that money on the shoes. You're going to spend that money on the flight. You're going to spend that money on the hat or the piece of clothing. You're going to spend that money on the movie tickets. You're going to spend that money on a ridiculously overpriced meal. I don't understand why in our culture, when it comes to taking care of ourselves, and I've gotten this for years as a natural foods retailer, like, how come it's so much? Really? It's 47 cents a day. It might be, and that's too much for people, 47 cents a day for the month. And but like I said, $1 a day for like a multi or something should be your kind of starting point. And then you ask yourself, wow, am I worth $1 a day? Hopefully you're worth thousands of dollars a day. Anyway, back to our thread. Hey, Todd, what's going on, my friend? Todd Reynolds is listening in the drive. Had a great chat with my buddy Todd Reynolds yesterday, and we talked about immune vitamins and herbs. Todd, thank you, because you were part of my inspiration today to get specific. I was going to do a tour wrap-up and talk about food and nutrition and some of the music, but thanks to you, I had my little list that I made on, hey, here's some things that people should at least check out and If you can do these all, you're killing it. But if you can pick 4 or 5, so thank you, Todd. Always good to talk nature and nutrition and plant-based vitamins, herbs, supplements. Um, Grapes and berries are very important to be organic if you're being selective. They're way high on the list. Yeah, there's lots of charts about this, but yeah, those can be depending on the exact ones, especially grapes. Yeah, wow, those can be sprayed. And likewise, try to only have those when they're organic. On this tour, as touring goes, I just ate what fruit was there. If it's a tour where I can control the rider a little bit, I get organic fruit. But there's a line there where to have a piece of live fruit versus the pesticides that you can't wash off because you will wash it. That gets into an interesting area. But you're absolutely correct. If you're buying for yourself, you're at home. Wow, really try to not buy organic grapes, folks. Wow, especially and strawberries. They're pretty bad. Blueberries are in the middle there because blueberries, a lot of those blueberries grow with very little input. It depends on where. Sometimes they need a lot of help. But blueberries can be pretty good, especially wild blueberries. But look it up, folks. Try to find ones that answer all those questions. So we talked about a bunch of supplements. One more little supplement thing, and then I'll get to some foods. Oh, spilled my tea. Well, almost spilled it. Let's get a sip. In my overpriced Starbucks cup, it's the only thing I could find, and I had to get one that had the spill-proof thing and that I could fit. Not hydrating enough, but I drank a lot of this. I love green tea. I love matcha. I found this. Sharing a lot of product today, just stuff that I used on this tour. Good Earth, sweet and spicy matcha. Oh, it's really good. It's got a little, as you can see in the graphic, a little cinnamon, little orange peel note in there. Really good. And just matcha, good matcha green tea. Wow. Drank a lot of this on this tour. So good. And now it's not boiling hot. Okay, one more on the supplements area. Then we'll talk about some food. Safe driving, Todd. I was going to get another camera going for this because I can't hold it up. Well, I'm going to try. But here's my little, you get these in any hardware store. It's a tackle box or a little, I don't know what they call them, a toolbox. This is one of my tour staples. I've toured with this for years. And what this enables me to do in a protected, safe little thing that's about the size of an iPad or something, so it slips into your backpack, it slips into a suitcase, and it's kind of crush-proof. Not 100%, but you see these, right? These are $3 or $4, $5. Wonderful little things. It's one of the tools I use for touring. Here's a couple of reasons I use it. First thing, as I said, kind of nice, solid, slips into your whatever you're traveling with without spilling and wrecking other stuff. Sorry. So many messages today because I just came home. People are saying hi. But anyway, these boxes are just cheap, great solution. And on a couple levels, not only the protection of, I'll show you in a second, little bottles, but what it does is it saves me a lot of space. Because instead of having 5, 6, 7 bottles floating around in a backpack or something, I'll show you what I do. So first thing that's also useful, I put some tape on there, and you can see there's some of my info. And I was taking some CoQ10. I scratched it out. What else is on there? There's my multi, one a day. I use them up. But you see what I can do there. Very fast way kind of label what's inside. Men's Multi, that was a while ago. I had a 2-a-day one. This tour, I took some zinc 1 a day, 50 milligrams. You can see I used to have something else in there. Hair, skin, and nails, right? So, that's another bonus of doing it this way because you can quickly label stuff and know what you're taking and how many times a day. Here's the coolest part to me. And again, folks, this is what works for me. You might come up with a different way. You might have a little bag with all your bottles in it. Whatever works. I'm always here to just share. Here's somebody that travels around a lot and has space constraints a lot and has time constraints a lot. And here's some ways that it works really well. It's time tested. I've done a lot of miles doing it this way. You can pick and choose. I'm not saying this is the way to do it. So I got to, make that clear to people. Maybe some of you I don't, but some of you it seems like I do. Just suggestions might not work for you. Take it and retrofit it. But to me, it's a cheap, awesome way to do this certain thing. Here's the real payoff. I'm going to try to open this without spilling it. But here, if I can hold up to the camera, what you then have is in each compartment, I have a little spirulina. I have my zinc in this corner. I have, I just have stuff. Oh, I have to take my zinc today. So as I said, we're going real time. Well, that's Advil. I have a couple Advil in there just in case. Advil is great, man, right? You have a back pain. That shit works. Drugs work. I'm in support of pharmaceuticals in a completely rare last occasion usage. It's funny, and that gets to the vaccines and all that. Here's my zinc, 50 milligrams. So that reminds me to take it. So what I do is, it happens that herb bottles fit right into these. If there's many types of these things. This one lets you put these little things in and make the size you want. So get one of those if you get these, so you can have bigger or smaller areas. What I love is they're just the size of these cute little herb bottles. So what do I have here? I got some vegan vitamin D3. D3 and D, you got to look if you care about it. You don't have to, but a lot of D comes from, actually the most comes from probably lamb's wool. The wool of sheep, the oil, the cholecalciferol, is that? I think that's the extract. And you extract it. And it's a tricky area because they're really sneaky on the labels. They sometimes call it vegetarian because the sheep doesn't die for them to take the wool off, but the sheep's gonna die because it's clearly in the lamb and sheep flesh industry. So it's kind of a weird borderline. And a lot of vegans end up taking that vitamin D source and don't realize it because they kind of don't say. It's a real interesting area that I've dealt with for decades with these companies. I like full disclosure of source, and they're really sneaky about a lot of vitamin D. Some other vitamin D, the second category, is from fish fats and fish oils and sea animal bodies. I also don't want that, but I recommend it for people. It's great. It's a fine source. Here's my philosophy, folks. Get it from the food. I said that at the onset of this because I know there's going to be people saying, why do you take all these things? Because we live in 2021 and the foods we have are denatured and we don't live out in nature and we're in cars and airplanes and we have pathogens that are released into humanity that we're not around. There's a million reasons. Our stress is different. We sit in front of screens. We're inhaling petrochemical waste at a continual base level with, again, the aforementioned cars and vehicles and jets. So we have to do something extra than just eat food. That's just my philosophy, and I think it's pretty supported by the science. So you take a prudent amount of stuff. This might look like a lot to people, but it's kind of my toolkit. I don't take everything here every day, but I just have it with me in such a tiny space that I can travel with it. So here's my vitamin D3. I didn't even open this. The plastic's still on it. I didn't even need to get to it. This is a wonderful recent source of, I say recent, the last 20 years or so. It's a plant-based vitamin D3. It's from an algae, which some would argue is not plant or animal. It's some other species. You don't even have to argue it. That's a fact. Like lichen and fungi and mushrooms and various things. you've got a few species on Earth you've got animals, you've got minerals, you've got categories of you know substances on Earth, what source it is, and there's these different kingdoms: the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the fungal kingdom. It's completely different when you get into these different types of mushrooms. But then you get into algae, and there's a lot of wonderful, amazing stuff that we're just putting our foot in the water, our toe in the water, no pun intended, with algae. So this is a really great source of vitamin D3. I'm not to it yet because I've been taking this one, which is a great company. Again, My Kind. It's got some spirulina dust all over it. But My Kind is, if you can get the focus there. Anyway, it's a D3, 1,000 milligrams. And it's D is one of the fat soluble vitamins. It probably a good thing to memorize. The fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K. Kind of important because having them in a fat situation means your body will absorb them more. And a lot of them come in foods with fats in them, That's speaking in general terms. That's not always true. But something like vitamin E, you always get that as a vitamin E oil, right? In a capsule or in a liquid. So very efficient digestion in a liposomal form, in a fat form. You also have things like liposomal vitamin C, which is a very good form of C. Again, C is like the master supplement here, folks. If all of this is too much for you, it's too much stuff to take, any of these things, I respect that. But if you can just get C, and a lot of it, and 2,000 to 5,000 milligrams a day, kind of is a baseline. Some people take 8 and 10,000 a day. Linus Pauling, who's one of the experts of vitamin C from decades ago, he took around 10, 12,000 a day. It's a joke the amount people take, 100 milligrams. Come on, man. You're fucking around. And then they say, well, that stuff doesn't work. Well, you took the garbage GNC brand and you took 300 milligrams a day. Like, please, get in the game. 1,000 bare minimum. But 2 to 5,000 a day. There's something with vitamin C called bowel intolerance. And what that means is every human's a little different on what vitamin C they need because you might be eating a lot of citrus. You might be eating a lot of parsley and kale and green vegetables. Probably not if you're an average American, which is what we're talking about. But those of you on this show obviously eat a lot better, I hope. And so you're probably getting your C in a few sources. Your green peppers, your parsley, your kale, your grapefruits. You're squeezing lemons, you're juicing lemons and limes. You're drinking lemons and limes in that vodka cocktail. Hey, credit where credit's due. But if you're not, you might want to start taking that level of C, 2 to 5,000. It's just a starting point. I'm just throwing something at the wall. But bowel intolerance vitamin C is an interesting area where each person, to really find out, should take vitamin C and keep upping the dose by 1,000 until you maybe get a little looser stools or what you might think is, a little diarrhea. Sorry to get graphic, folks. But depending on your diet, because there's a way to not have this reaction at all if you're eating really well and eating highly raw foods, high fiber, highly plant-based diet. But again, the average American is not. But if you can take that vitamin C up to just where it's a little uncomfortable on your bowels and then drop it by 1,000 or 2,000, that's kind of your optimal vitamin C dose. Again, that's a real general way of looking at it. I've been told that from nutritionists. I've had that methodology supported by nutritionists, chiropractors, naturopaths. Medical doctors, not so much because they don't deal with this shit. But I'm sure there's a couple of them I've talked to. But if you look up bowel intolerance of vitamin C. So anyway, that's my vitamin D. This is almost done. Yeah, that's it. That's kicked. I'm going to move to the other one soon. So in this little toolbox, so I've got vitamin C. I've got, what else do I have here? I didn't open this. This is my extra bottle of andrographis. The green dust all over everything is spirulina. I had some spirulina tablets. I don't know. One of them broke or something, and it says green powder, which is fine. Andrographis is one of my favorite things. I'll end with that. I got some Rapid Immune Boost. Herb Farm, I love this company, another old company. And I did feel a little scratchy throat halfway through this tour, and I was like, uh-oh. I had a COVID test 2 years later, 2 days later. I was fine. But when you're on a tour in a bus with 10 people, man, it is, you're if one of us gets sick, there's recycled air, we're near each other, we're touching door handles and toilet flushes and sink, uh, nozzles. Uh, 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 but I was fine, and so this has got, yeah, some of the same stuff as in the other formulas, just higher doses of things like echinacea, and there's elderberry on here. Um, what else? I can't even read this shit. It's so tiny. There's golden seal, and golden seal and andrographis are germ killers. They are, you know, things that are going to kill things. They're antibacterial. There's some evidence that andrographis is antiviral. And there's actually some articles on andrographis and COVID, but it's inconclusive. These studies are very small. Elecampane is in here too. Elecampane is an excellent herb for lung health as the lung tonic. So this rapid immune boost, I love this stuff. If you're just feeling a little something, it's a great one to have. Again, this is just like a little arsenal. Andrographis. Wow, I take that all the time. That's something, if you were going to pick one herb. Black walnut, I got some black walnut hulls. Black walnut's great for, it's anti-parasitic, as is the favorite of the conspiracy people, ivermectin, by the way. And that's ivermectin's main thing. It's anti-parasitic. These people think that they're alchemists and they're going to turn it into something else. But yeah, props to ivermectin when it's time to kill some parasites. It's the shit. This is not a parasite we're fighting. That's why it's not working. When you're on your deathbed or something, which many of these people have died touting ivermectin. Many of them, these right-wing talk show hosts who've talked about ivermectin. The problem with all this is then you have a Joe Rogan who gets COVID and takes ivermectin, but then what he leaves out, or the press leaves out, or your dumb buddy emailing you bullshit all the time leaves out, is that Joe Rogan, first of all, is a fucking millionaire. And not only is he taking ivermectin, he's taking, the cocktails, right? He's taking dexamethasone, and he's also a really, really fit, badass physical specimen, right? The guy's a cut, pumped bodybuilder. He's young enough that he's not in the risk group. He certainly is not obese. He's not diabetic. He doesn't have any of these comorbidities. So these people just leave all that out. All the stuff that we were discussing on day one of this pandemic. They just leave it out. Well, Joe Rogan took ivermectin. Well, see, I'm going to take it. Yeah, you're fat ass sitting on the couch with your Cheeto stained t-shirt and smoking cigarettes. I don't know if it's going to work out as well for you, but good luck when you get COVID, right? I don't know. Anyway, great anti-parasitic black walnut hulls. Also, just a detoxing compound. So I was taking a little bit of that. Just if you read about black walnut hulls, it does a lot of stuff, and it's good for digestive health ultimately and intestinal health. So I saw, and I haven't taken black walnut in a while, so taking a little bit of that. So I'll end with some of the tablets that are in there. Again, I've got a one-a-day multi. There's a multi-mineral, my zinc, which I'm about to take. And one of my favorite things I've talked to you all about. Oh, this is a vegan capsule of is this CoQ10 in a vitamin E oil or something. I love that the whole vegan capsule thing has come way along, that they can put oils in these. These capsules are made of cornstarch. There's one I saw that had some hemp starch or something in it. They're made from potato starch. They're made from there's all these gums that are finally able to be used in these capsulating machines. I will not eat a gelatin capsule, have not in 37 years. If I've been forced to take a pharmaceutical, like after an operation or something, I will take it out of the capsule. Sorry, I'm not going to eat bovine and capsules or crapsules, as we used to call them in the store. Gelatin is such garbage, folks, because it's not just bones and hoofs. It is animal waste, anything you can name. It is roadkill. It is medical and experimental animal waste. It is, of course, hides and bones and hoofs from the slaughter industry. It's really anything you could think of, animal waste, all kinds of species that you don't want to know, and they boil them down. They render them down into a nasty soup, and then it's left to sit and it's processed with different things until it's gelatin, which is very useful industrial product, but you should find out where it comes from. So, so that's what some of these things are. Multi-mineral, multivitamin, and then I'm going to take my zinc and I'm going to take one of the perfect foods on earth. Perfect foods. Spirulina. And I love that. We've talked about that many times. What does he mean, perfect food? In brief, I won't get into this right now, but mother's milk for the appropriate mammal species. Eggs. The egg of a bird. Popularly chicken eggs. People eat some duck eggs, some quail eggs. Eggs are great. They're perfect food. I don't eat them, but I recommend, if you like them, to get the best eggs, which means from your neighbor up the street or from a farm nearby at a farm market, or organic, that is certified organic, not fed any drugs, naturally fed, free-range chicken. Sure. But those foods are perfect because they have all the vitamins, all the minerals, omega fats in the proper, optimum balance for humans. They have the amino acids and linoleic acid and all of these amazing things are in milk, mother's milk. They're in eggs and also in spirulina. Wonderful, amazing food. It's an algae, another blue-green algae, and we talked about algae before. So I love spirulina, and I credit that with a lot of my energy and my health. Do I have enough energy? Let me know, because if I'm dragging ass for y'all, then I can get some espresso. But it's one of the ways I do it, folks. 12-hour days, not getting sick on endless fucking tours. It's not the only way. I know lots of people who don't do any of that, but they've got other things that happen, or they do get sick more often, or they drink 6 cups of coffee a day. So there's everyone does something different. I respect whatever people want, but if you're trying to do it without some of those things, this is just one of many possible ways. So take my spirulina now, plus hydrate a bit more. Wow, what an amazing algae. It needs only water and sunlight. They've experimented with spirulina in the International Space Station and on space travel, because in space travel you need to come up with food sources. So they're experimenting. I talked about this last week. They're experimenting with growing peppers and vegetables and stuff, but they've also experimented with, got some spirulina on me. They experimented with spirulina and other algae because they have light and water in space, and they can do this. So answering another question real quick. Spirulina. Okay. Wow. So much good stuff out there, folks. I'm scratching the surface too. You can go crazy, and that's the thing, though. I know people that take 30 things a day, and that's where it starts to get into a psychosis. Like, come on, man. Like, what are you eating, and what do you? So that you got to watch that too. Be careful to just kind of fine tune and say, well, what do I need? Am I working out a lot? So then let me switch to turmeric every day. It's anti-inflammatory. It's great for recovery time for athletes. Let me get more minerals happening because I'm putting stress on my muscles and my bones, and I'm sweating a lot. So kind of think about where you're at, and I'm looking at some weight loss. Well, spirulina is a great one because some energy. You're going to get some base level protein, very little protein in spirulina, a fair amount though. I think I just took, I don't know, I took about 4 grams of protein there, 3 4 grams. So it's moderate, but if that's happening, and a couple of handfuls of almonds, and some Brazil nuts in your salad, and some pumpkin seeds, and some tempeh at lunch, suddenly you're in the 20, 30, um, grams of protein range. So it's about having it throughout the day. But don't go crazy on supplements. You don't have to take a lot of them, but you have to really be honest, identify what are your goals, what are you trying to do, what are you working on. My goals, and important for anyone that jumped in halfway watching this, my goals are I was just on a tour in a pandemic America, in an America that's around 60% vaccinated. Fortunately, in the Northeast, where the average is 70 to 80% vaccinated, maybe even a little higher, um, on a tour that required and demanded vaccine proof as far as we can do that in the broken United States with a lot of counterfeits and stuff. But we were in New York for a couple of the gigs. We were in New Hampshire, Maine. Did we touch Ohio? No. We were in Maryland for one gig, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and yeah, I said New York, Long Island, New York. So we did pretty well for states that have a really good percentage and have a really decent proving method. So I heard it went really well at the door. It was interesting because it was an experiment, and it takes longer to get 400 or 600 people into a venue when you're checking every one of them. It's pretty amazing. So that's why I'm talking today about immunity, supporting immunity. That's where I just was, folks. I was out on a tour for nearly 3 weeks, and it was scary. I'm not gonna lie, it was scary going into it. I was like, "What the fuck?" I bugged out a couple times, but I need to work. 2 years, 2.5 years. Let me see, what the fuck year is it? Yeah, about 2 years since a paycheck for me. I got some unemployment. I got some different things. I got some aid from Live Nation of all people, and I applied for different things. Yeah, and then I worked with teaching and workshops and interviews and all that. I'm not crying the blues, but it was a big difference not having steady work. So that played into my decision too, and I said, well, they're doing it as safe as I can imagine, and so that played into my decision. Also played into my decision, obviously a very good career move to go work for one of the busiest, kind of contemporary, um, quote unquote jazz artist. Pat Metheny does a lot of jazz, but he's so much more than that in terms of styles of music. So uh, I it's tough to describe whatever music it is, but jazz is at the backbone of it, and then it's world music, it's ambient music, it's noise music. Um, but I did it, and we made that choice. And Pat said some beautiful words last night at the closing show. He kind of said every night he thanked people for coming out. He's like, "Wow, it's a big deal to come out right now." It's really wonderful words. But last night he kind of said, "Thank you for coming out, and we're taking our lives in our own hands. We took our lives in our own hands to do this." And he said, and I was on the November leg of the tour. They started in late September, and he said, and we did it. We've been out here since late September, and we just, I forget the exact words, but extemporizing what he said something like, and we just did everything we could, and we just kept the bar high, and I want to thank everyone who came out, So, okay, so closing herb that I'm going to talk about, and let's go back to your questions before I do that. So, sweet and spicy matcha, drinking that. Then we're going to get to some snacks and some food. Oh, yeah, before I do the closing herb, here's another thing I have. And so those herbs in that package, I leave it in my suitcase. Every other day I'm at my suitcase, so I try to take the vitamin D every day. And I also have a tiny little pill box that I always have a day's maybe 2 or 3 days supply in. So you kind of work it out that you're not always looking for shit. I have to live out of a backpack really because you go in and out of the bus. You got your backpack. So I have that kind of mothership that I just showed you. But I always have, I didn't bring it with me, but I have one of those little pill boxes. You see them in any drugstore. And that's loaded with spirulina, the one a day, and the zinc. That's all. And so I make sure I get those every day. And I make sure I get the vitamin D every day. And then I have this, which I have this in my backpack. Now, you might be looking at this and go, oh, that's those things for hard drives or cameras. Exactly. These are these little cases. I love them. Who makes this? Case Logic. I love this company. Good, robust, protective cases. I have a bunch of these. As a musician, as a production person, as a computer person, you have hard drives that you carry on all the time. So I buy these for hard drives. You slip a little, solid state drive or a hard drive. I'm looking at one right now. And this is what you travel in, and they protect them. And I realized, oh, we can repurpose this. So I have this, and I tend to have things in my backpack that I'm just sharing with you some of the stuff that makes my life easier. We've all grown up with crap in our bags, and you're digging through. I try to compartmentalize, and I have pouches and these things. And I just have these in my backpack. So you look in my backpack or any of my stuff, you'll see about 6 of these. And I usually label them if I can. This is charging shit. So all my different cables are in here. I won't bore you with it, but for anything I have to charge, my smartphone, my headphones, my YouTube, my Bluetooth, got a pair of earplugs in there. There's a fork in there for some reason. So different shit flies in there by accident. But mostly it's, whatever it could be, USB, that's mini USB. I've got the all important power block. So whatever I charge, I'm not going to, again, go through every single thing, but obviously, iPhone charger, some other bullshit, little stereo cable. The point is, after years of just having this shit bouncing around in my bag, I went, isn't there an easier way? And so just like the rest of my gear, the MIDI cables and the audio cables that you carefully, I said, wait a minute. And these are, hardware store. You get 6 of these for $10. I love it. So for years now I've been doing this, and it just means that things are very, easy to grab. So I have this. I have another one that says cutlery, and I got a knife and a fork and a spoon, so I don't use everyday throwaway plastic stuff. I've got, what else do I have? Anyway, this is the important one to stay on topic. These boxes are great. Little zipper, and it says supplements. The other thing is that way you're on a plane, which you always are, or you're on a bus, which you always are, or you're backstage, and there's a lot of, you're sharing space with 10 people, and you got to get in and out of a bag really quickly. And I just need to be able to zip open a bag, peer in there, and grab what the fuck I want. So this is a way I have some supplements here. And this is one that I have with me for everyday use. And again, I've got another bottle of this wellness. So I take that. I took that already. Then I've got some silver, colloidal silver. Now, colloidal silver has gotten a bad name because of the kind of the Alex Jones. I think he actually had a colloidal silver product. As usual with these people, and what's interesting, I have a friend that I'm always in a debate with about things. What's really difficult about some of these conspiracy people is there's a kernel of truth to what they're saying. Ivermectin is a valuable pharmaceutical for parasites, but they don't want to live with that. They just want to say that it's fucking magic and it's going to do everything, and that's really our problem with all this. So silver is, I forgot to see if there's any YouTube questions, by the way. Hello, people on YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm so remiss today. Sorry about this. Hey, there's Anthony there, my dear friend, Anthony at Make Word Music. Thank you, Anthony. I know you live that philosophy, my brother. Don't be a cheapskate, man, when it's something you're worth caring about. And you're right. I'm talking about supplements and stuff, but let's apply it to everything, right? Whether it's instruments or tools for your whatever you do. People are cheapskates, aren't they, Anthony? But not about all the other shit, right? They'll spend so much money on nonsense, but then it's for their body, for their lives, for their artistry. Suddenly they want the discount, right? I don't get it. So good to see you here. Let's see. Good to see you there. And Sharon's on both platforms there. Client meeting. Okay, good to see you, man. I did see these comments. Thank you, my bro. And if anyone's on Twitter, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll click in there later. Let's see. So anyway, yeah, the whole, silver's something good to read about because the silver story is interesting. Silver was used a lot more in about 100 years, 100 to 150 years ago. It was used in the pharmacopoeia, in the medical world. There's a lot on it, and I'm just reading some bullet points here. So, colloidal silver has been used this is WebMD too, by the way. And you go to WebMD, you go to Healthline, you go to Very Well Health, you go to these major sources. That's what sucks is that Alex Jones. The effect is then other people go, well, it must be nonsense if Alex Jones. Like a broken clock, even these kind of people are once in a fucking while correct. Full disclosure, I'm not an Alex Jones fan. He's wrong on virtually everything. But I'm sure we can count on one hand. Yeah, sure, he's a human being. So there's a few things he gets right. And it's funny. There's a funny right-wing conspiracy, incel, whack job, deep web, nightmare website world overlap with natural foods. It's very interesting. I've noticed this for decades. A lot of those folks and some of the survivalists, a lot of them are totally into everything I've talked about today. They're totally into herbs. They're totally stocking up on zinc and liposomal C. And Joe Rogan, he's down with all that stuff. Not that he's one of those people. Joe is something of a unicorn. He's an interesting guy. I don't agree with some of his things, but I agree with a great much of what he says. And he just gets lumped in because of his fan base. But the point I'm making, I think you get it, is there's a real overlap. And so Alex Jones, I think it was either him or the pillow psychopath, that guy, had some colloidal silver product and they hyped it up. It's a cure for COVID and all this. And it's not, folks. While it might have, it does have some antiviral properties. It's antibacterial and things. It's not a cure. We don't have a cure. We have many things that can actually all put together optimize your fight against COVID. Clearly we do. And I listed some of them. Dexamethasone, ivermectin, yes, in a small window of time when you've just got this and early on, okay. But again, that's not what your crazy brother-in-law is talking about. He thinks you could be on the deathbed and fucking take horse paste and it's what works. We got to find some way of modulating that discussion. So anyway, colloidal silver, I'd say look it up. A lot of good info on major medical sites about it. And there's history about it. You can look back. Now, silver, you don't want to you take too much of it because it can be, it can sit in your body. And if you have light skin, it will show up as a thing that you've overdone it. But colloidal in a water base, tiny parts per million of this, and you're going to get the benefits. Colloidal silver, I'm reading from WebMD, so this is not my words. Colloidal silver products were once available as over-the-counter drug products, but in 1999, the FDA ruled that they aren't safe. I remember when that happened, and it has a lot to do with the usual all-American thing of taking too much of a good thing. So you had people who would take tons of fucking silver and get into toxicity issues, be hospitalized, be sick. And the medical industry that doesn't really care to really look at things on the fringe outside of classic, pharmacy-driven things, pushed for it to be made unsafe. It's still legal. You can buy it all day long at a health food store, but go do your research on it, and but do it from these medical sources, and get an understanding that it's something to take tiny amounts of. Colloidal silver can kill certain germs by destroying proteins, which is why it was previously used in wound dressings. That's right. World War One, I think even earlier wars, they discovered they can do a wound dressing that included it, and it was anti-germ, antibacterial. Silver, though, has no known function in the body, is not an essential mineral. So again, you're not taking it at all for anything other than optimizing a fight against the disease process, an infection, a bacterial situation, even a viral situation. So you really want to make sure you're getting like a really good brand, and it's in parts per million in a water base, so you're just getting tiny amounts of it because that's all it takes. Colloidal silver has been used for infections, hay fever, skin conditions, and many other conditions. But there's no good scientific evidence to support any of its uses. Fair enough. And they're talking about double-blind tests and again, the Western kind of efficacy is a good one, but drill down into silver and how it's been used for, again, I'd say centuries, but certainly a century and a half. So again, I'm saying tiny, tiny doses because it's antibacterial, because it's antiviral. It's one of the useful things to have in the blend of stuff. So they get into, right, they just list a couple other things that it's used for. And then they say possibly ineffective for inflammation of the nasal cavity. They go through a couple of things. But the side effect and the problem, as I said, is people take too much of it or they make their own solutions. I think that was one of the things with whether it was Pillow Guy or Alex Jones. It was a crazy solution with a lot of silver in it. And I forget the story. It's over a year old, but it was quite problematic. So, read about silver, check it out. This is very tiny dose that I just took. And I don't take this every day. I took it a few times. My attitude, just like anyone who's made it through any of these things, is if you can hit your immune system with a bunch of good stuff, you're getting a little bit of the effects of everything, sometimes a lot of the effects, and it's that synergistic thing has shown to be more powerful. Let's see. Anne says, okay, powders come from an individual on the Porch Creek Reservation. Okay, Porch, Alabama. I think that's an AL, right? Alabama. There are wonderful teas available for purchase in Animal Power. Okay, that's great. I love that. I support that. Fortunately, there's a lot of tribal medical people that have created companies and ways to market their wonderful teas and mushrooms and herbs and roots and things. So that's great. I'm glad that you found a place. Check out Herbalist and Alchemist. Again, this is a man that's part Cherokee, David Winston, and an incredible site to educate yourself. He's got a lot of things on there and a lot of videos of him. And if you're interested in seeing some other compounds based on Cherokee formulas that go back, certainly decades, probably centuries in his case. But check that out because he's got quite a few Cherokee formulas if you're interested. Have you ever been hassled by customs? No, I haven't. And the thing is, everything's the whatever it is, 3.2 ounces limit. Everything's smaller than that, so it doesn't even ring a bell. I also have TSA pre-check, which is incredible. And anyone that doesn't have that has rocks in their head if they travel a lot. If you travel every few years, whatever, I would still get it. Yesterday, it always pays for itself. It always proves itself. I'll tell you, yesterday I was in Newark Airport in New Jersey. I walked past, and I did an estimate, and I'm good at estimating because I'm a tour manager. You have to look at a crowd and do a dimensions thing and do some math. All right, this is about 10 by 10, and each row is about 12 people. There's about 15 rows. About 6 people. Around 1,200 people were waiting on a fucking line and going through security. I walked up to my line, our line, the TSA pre-check. 4 people on the line, including me. It was glorious. I walked past 1,200 people. It was fucking great. I don't have to take my shoes off. I don't have to take my computer out of my backpack. It goes through the, stuff, and I still walk through a metal detector. But I was like, wow, y'all stay on that line. So having said that, even when I go through a regular check, no, all these things are, and they do that little dust test with you, and I don't have drugs. I don't do drugs. So, no hassles. I walk right through. And my bag always has batteries and wires and all this shit. And, Sabine, how are you? Good to see you. Doing okay. Back off the road, and good to be home. And, just really great to be home. Great to be on the road. I'm going to take my zinc, and I'm going to wrap this up. Zinc. I was talking about zinc in March last year when we started talking about optimizing our health for this horrific zoonotic novel virus, which is about 2 years old in terms of humans knowing about it. That's the other thing, these people, wow. Well, they're saying some different stuff about it that they didn't before. Here I go again. It's always Yosemite Sam is always the conspiracy person. Well, suffering succotash. The Fauci's got stock in the. Of course, we're finding out new things all the time. Of course, that's what's called science. I gave someone an example the other day. If we landed on a planet that we'd never been on, and then they said, hey, it's got 85% of Earth's gravity, and it's the oxygen levels are about half ours, so we need these masks. We need these oxygen supply. And then they said something about whatever, the mineral content. But then 2 days later, because they're on a new planet, they discover, you know what? Actually, the oxygen level changes because of this planet's proximity to its sun and some pull of the 5 satellites around it. We find that there's a weather thing that happens, and the oxygen level changes and we didn't realize we've never dealt with a planet with pools of chlorine. So we've learned something new. We're going to adjust what we said a few days ago. Actually, the oxygen levels changed to a great degree. These conspiracy people, if they were consistent, would then say, you're making it all up. It's not even a real planet. Because 3 days ago, you said that there was 14% oxygen. Now you're saying 22. Suffering succotash. Something's up. I smell a rat. I'm going to do my own research. It's fucking batshit crazy. But that's what they've done with this, right? Because as we scrambled on a global level, and the Swiss would figure something out, and the Japanese would figure something out, and yes, the Chinese with their compromised info that we had to filter and parse, they would give us more info, and the Germans were looking at this, and Italy, and doctors in Seattle, medical viral people that went there, figuring out this outbreak that was only in the Seattle area at the very beginning. Every day they had new info, remember? And certainly 3 weeks in, they said, oh, wow. What we thought about it being completely respiratory, it's more of an organ thing, because we're seeing people with kidney and liver things. And then a few weeks later, they said, oh, wow, comorbidities. Now we have hundreds of thousands of numbers of illnesses, and we're seeing a curve here. If you're obese, if you have diabetes, if you've already had COPD or lung disease, the numbers are different. And they would come to us and say, here's what we're learning in Brazil, in Japan, in Norway, in Sweden, in Botswana, in Senegal, in India, in Japan, in Detroit, in New York, in Texas. how science works, consensus information. We then learned, wow, uh, those are major factors, and the death rate in those groups is different. People don't have those ailments at the numbers we do in India, in Africa, in parts of the world. So we're seeing some different numbers. So all of this, I'm just kind of rehashing these 2 years. Anyone that understands how science works knows that that's what happens with a novel, completely new situation. Doesn't matter if it was human made or from a lab, actually, or from the wet markets. Doesn't really matter for a minute. We fucking have it. But once you have it and it's new to science, that info is going to evolve. And what I find interesting is that very evolving of info. Again, I tried to give an example of landing on another planet. The info would change. We'd be getting the info from NASA and new things would change, right? Every couple of days, they'd be drilling and taking mineral sources, or if it's a robot doing it, we'd keep getting new info. We'd say, wow, turns out this planet drops to 250 below zero at night, and there's a chemical process that happens where this happens, and there's some clouds of this weird magnesium compound with selenium. We've never seen this. And what that causes is a precipitation of selenium that gathers on these things we thought were plants, but then that we would learn stuff. Every day it would change. Why can't people wrap their minds around that this virus was never seen by humans? Again, I don't care if Fauci made it or the Chinese made it. That doesn't matter. Can you just shut up about that for a minute? It doesn't matter. We can come back to that. What matters is we have it. It's here. There's more and more evidence that it is from a wet market. More evidence just came out. But it doesn't matter. I'm not here to talk about that. Just here to kind of hopefully inspire people to think about why this is so confusing to certain groups of people. And it is confusing to them. They're confused at how science works. Sorry. I know that sounds condescending, but it's condescending that they've caused a lot of grandmothers to die. So here we are. All right, so COVID, vaccines, viruses, it's all woven into all this, folks. But mostly we're talking about food today. So, Sabine, you're worried about the COVID situation in Germany. I know. Your turn to fuck it up, unless you meant guck it up. Is that German for something? Believe me, I'm worried. I'm due to be in Europe in April, on this tour, and I'm crossing my fingers saying, well, that's 6 months from now. Is it 6? Let's see. It's November now, right? December, January, February, March, April. 5 months, yeah. Just hoping. And 5 months, as we've seen this 2 years, is a whole lot of time for things to go up, down, sideways. In a highly science-oriented nation such as yours, in a nation with I'll say excellent, you'll probably say, wow, there's problems. I know, but it's excellent compared to us as Americans. Just bear with me on that. With an excellent national healthcare system where each German citizen is in the system, where they can track diseases, where they can track having a vaccine or not, where you can track results of testing. And I know you have problems in the German health system. But again, hear me out that I'm comparing it to the broken, shitty, completely controlled by profit, not partially controlled by profit, as yours and others are. Ours is a nightmare. Even with the ACA, even with healthcare that I have to reapply for every year, which I need to do. The deadline, I think, is today. I'm having confidence that you and the fine German scientists and healthcare regime will pull this together in less than those 5 months. I will also hope that, as we've seen, 60, 90 days of going back to the masking and the distancing and the careful acknowledgement that we are stuck with this virus. It's not going to go away. We're going to manage it, right? Remember, we still have the Black Death. We still have that pathogen. Only a couple hundred people die per year of it. I think it's under 200. But it exists. It floats around. We still have these other things. Measles, smallpox, things have been squeezed down to almost nothing, but they exist. HIV, we have no vaccine, but we have great, great, great drugs to control them. I think that's where we're headed. That's the next chapter of COVID. And that's not just my conjecture. As any of you know, paying attention, Merck, I forget the other one, Merck, J&J, and another one have some COVID drugs right around the corner awaiting approval. So we are getting things in the arsenal. So I think that my heart goes out to Austria and Germany heading into these lockdowns, um, and other countries. And what you're proving to the people who don't understand science is that even with a vaccine rate that's, well, the vaccine rate's pretty low, actually. This expert said this, especially Michael Osterholm. Please look him up, folks. What a genius. He's now one of Biden's COVID advisors. He's been a director at University of Minnesota for many years. He said early on when talking about vaccines, he said, this is going to require, 99, 95% vaccination. Many experts have said that. Fauci has said 90 percentile. Really, there's consensus there. That's how rabies works. We don't vaccine half the dogs. We don't vaccine just the dogs your nutcase brother-in-law did research on that we should or we shouldn't, right? We don't fuck about with dogs and rabies, do we? Do we just leave it to choice? Think about this. No, you vaccine every fucking dog. Why? Because rabies is a nightmare, and we used to have it. It's still around on Earth, but you know what I'm saying? In the streets of England and in rural America, you'd get bitten by an animal, or your dog would get bitten by an animal, or eat something, or eat some squirrel shit, or whatever, and get rabies and froth at the mouth and kill your baby, or bite you and you would die. You died before we figured this stuff out. We're not saying that enough to these conspiracy people. We're not saying enough that the human lifespan was 23 for a long time, okay? Because you died when you broke a tooth. You died when you stepped on something that cut your toe open and there was tetanus in it. You died. They had 14 children because 8 would die. We're just not saying this enough to these people. And I'm not saying we run into the arms of J&J or Hoffman LaRoche or Ciba-Geigy. I hate those companies for their monopolism, for their overpricing, for their infiltration into our governments. I hate them. That doesn't mean that penicillin doesn't work. All right, I'm not going to go too far down the nut job road, but I invite anyone who disagrees with me, come on my show. I invite you, and we will politely talk about how vaccines are fake and the virus is fake and the vaccines don't work because people with vaccines still catch COVID. I'd love to talk to you about that. If you disagree with me, come on my show. I know some of you are watching right now, but you won't do it. I'm daring you. Come on my show. Explain to us your understanding of math and numbers. I beg you. We'll have a polite, wonderful time, but I will hold your feet to the fire, and I'll ask you to show mathematically and scientifically why you are saying the things you say. Put me on with that Aaron Rodgers guy. I'd love that. And his nonsense, which gives homeopathic and natural solutions a bad name. But it's not a joke here, folks. It's not a joke. Penicillin is a real thing, and it really works. And we died of things before penicillin. Now, again, because I know what you're going to say, I'm not saying you live a life filled with shots and drugs, and I certainly don't. I just don't understand where some of my, I've got a couple former, not employees, customers that I know who go on and on that, Andre, how could you be into natural? I don't see a dichotomy there. I don't take drugs, but I understand when a house is on fire, you call the fire department. When a plane is going down, you put on a parachute. of any design. I'll take whichever one you got if the plane's going this way. I don't care. So, I took the fucking vaccine. Many of us did who have problems with vaccines because there's enough evidence that it will reduce your chance of getting this virus. Not 100%, which these people can't seem to understand. No one ever said the vaccine is 100%. Please take that and use that on Thursday sitting with your nutcase brother-in-law. Remind him or your nutcase sister or her girlfriend or whoever it is. Women, men, up, down, black, white, young, old. I got them all that are saying this stuff. Remind them, no one ever said in any of the thousands of articles that these vaccines are 100%. They never said that. They said they will raise your likelihood of not catching the virus to a number that depended on Moderna, J&J, Pfizer, other ones around the world. That number in some of the Sinopharm and all these other, is that the brand name? Like the Chinese one? Very low efficacy, right? They gave you 60, 70% chance. J&J, which I had, gave you like 88, 90%. Pfizer was 93, 92, 93, 94%. These are all averages because it depends on a great many external factors. And Moderna was the highest one. It's also the biggest dose, also the roughest one with a lot more quick side effects like pain, soreness, maybe feeling like the flu for a few days. Everyone said, it's fucking worth it. I didn't get COVID. But my friend did, and that one did, and that one did, and that talk show host did, and that one, and 750,000 Americans did. The vast majority, of course, a lot of this was before we had a vaccine and after the vaccine. The conspiracy theorists, again, will say, well, a lot of people caught it. What they leave out, and I want you to remember this Thursday with the nutcase discussion, or anytime, is very many of those dying with the vaccine are on the older side. Yes, if you're 90 and had the vaccine and got COVID, you have a higher chance of dying, and a lot of them did. Or if you're 85 or 75, really above 65, it starts to curve. And if you're above 65 and obese and had COPD, wow, it's really not very good. And a lot of those people died with the vaccine. This is not hard. But it's hard for some of these people who just have a glancing understanding of 7th grade science here, because that's what it really is. It's not deep stuff. So, let's move forward. All right, I'm going to go back to some food. I'm going to finish up on some food. And let's see. I'm supposed to say fuck it up. So Sabine says, no testing for vaccinated people as no quarantine. If you're vaccinated, I had contact. I'm not understanding that. Okay, no testing for vaccinated people and no quarantine. No quarantine if you're vaccinated and had contact to a positive tested person. So it's spreading rapidly. Okay. Elizabeth Wyman, good to see you. The fact that you call us a nut job is not respectful. Elizabeth, I'm not speaking to you. You're not a nut job. You're one of the rational ones. I mean, again, do I have to say it every time? Do I have to break it down into percentages every time? That's what gets a little tiresome. Okay, I'll do that, though. There are some that are nutcases, okay? And I know a few of them. There are some that are very fine and rational people, and I agree with a lot of their views on this. As I said, I don't like the pharmaceutical companies. I don't like vaccines. I don't like a lot of things. I don't like paying insurance, okay? But I do it because it's a necessary thing to shore up a problem if my car hits someone else. There's a lot of things I don't like. So, Elizabeth, my dear friend, you're not a nutcase. And your sister's not a nutcase. And your friend what was his name? Nate? I forget. It's been over a month or about a month. Wonderful kid. He's not a nutcase. We disagreed on a bunch of things, but we had a wonderful discussion, I thought. So I guess I have to say it every time. It's kind of like when you say, as I'm staying away from this because we could do an hour on this. It's kind of like we're waiting on the Arbery trial, and we just had the Rittenhouse trial, which started out as a protest about a black man being shot in the back. But it's kind of like that when you say, like, oh, man, America and all this racism. There's always someone in the room who says, America's not 100% racist. Never said that. Jesus fucking Christ. Clearly, we're talking about the racists. So when I say the nutcases, I'm talking about the ones who are nut jobs. Okay, it's not you. Don't take it personally. You're clearly not a nut job. I talked about, you just, ah, you get me mad, Elizabeth. You do, because you're unfair. Maybe you just jumped in, but I was just talking about Joe Rogan, for instance, right? And I spoke about him with respect. I spoke about the things that I think he has shown to be provably correct. And I've said, yeah, there's some things I don't disagree. I even talked about the pillow guy. Now, he's a nutcase because he's presenting it in a completely ridiculous way. So I don't lump all these people together, but I think it's okay to call the ones that are nut jobs. And I'm going to do that. And if you're triggered by that, I don't know what to do. But I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about those who can have a rational discussion about that, who we can agree to disagree, and who we can, you know, help each other find the parts that we overlap. But I'm not talking about you, my friend. But can you admit that there? Oh, let's turn it around this way. Can you admit that there are some nut jobs? And I'll say the same thing for some of these trials that are coming up, because I have the same discussion and argument with some right wing friends. I say to them, okay, no one's saying all of America is racist, but can you guys agree that there are major pockets of racism, major problems with racism? And sometimes there are problems with that, which to me, they're the ones that need to do the work. So I ask you that. You're not a nut job. I'm not saying everyone that is, I don't know what else I can do. I paint it into a specific caricature of the nut job brother-in-law, because we all have one who's off the rails and talking to us about all kinds of conspiracies year after year. So don't take it personally. But I ask you that question. Are there some nut jobs in that whole crew? I watch all these videos. I've watched videos you've sent me. I've watched videos my old college housemates sent me. I watch videos former music colleagues have sent me. I watch videos that I randomly find. And so I watch them all, and there's a lot of nut jobs. So that's my question for you, Elizabeth. Are there any nut jobs in the crew of people saying that the virus is fake, saying the vaccine is fake, saying that ivermectin is this magical cure and it'll work anytime in the COVID period? Day 1, day 5, hospital bed day, it'll work. You tell me if you think there's any of these people that are nutcases. So anyway, um, let's see. Sabine says that. Meg Donahue, good to see you. And I don't know who Joseph Arthur is, but hello, Joseph. That's a musician that I don't know if it's the same person, but so Elizabeth says, how many boosters will you take to get back to normal? That's a great question. That's an open question. I'd rather not take any, but that's not good enough for you. I don't know what to say. You just see, one of the things with you particularly is you want me to answer question after question after question after question after question to your satisfaction. But then you don't want to answer any questions. You don't want any kind of middle ground there. You just want it to be. So again, come on my show. Let's talk about this as polite adult human beings. But you said you don't want to do that. So, but let me try to think about that answer. I certainly don't want a situation that you see in all the cartoons on the Great Reset websites and all these. I visit all this stuff where you have someone with, I think there's one cartoon with they have 100 pins in them or needles, and no, I certainly don't endorse that. I'm a critic of vaccines. What? But again, to you that means I've got to be 100% absolutist on that, or I'm a failure. Well, sorry you think that about me, my friend. We're in a fucking novel zoonotic outbreak, and we will have other ones, because hopefully one thing you and I agree on, from my memory of your views, is that we are pushing planet Earth, we are pushing nature, we're pushing the biosphere, we're pushing the animal kingdom to the brink with what we're doing. And so we're going to see more outbreaks. We're going to see more things coming from, especially places like rural China, rural Africa. Um, the rainforest, where we are destroying the capacity of the planet, and well, we'll never destroy it, but we're destroying the rains where humans can have safe. But we're going to see more of these completely unknown viral things, and it sucks. I hate to tell you, it sucks. Echinacea is not going to work on everything. I think you just tuned in, unless you haven't said anything for 2 hours. That's what amazes me. Where were you when I was talking about vitamin C? I was talking about andrographis. I was talking about ginger and black walnut hulls. I've been talking about minerals. I've been talking about B vitamins, D vitamins. I talked positively about ivermectin. You were silent. So I'll give you the benefit of that you just happen to tune in when I'm talking about the very real nut jobs that are out there. But it's a fact. There are some that are nut jobs. Anyway, I hope that before we go to boosters, we have enough. Here's my answer: we have enough of a percentage of vaccinated people that we can bring the rate down, because the rate has come down, but it's not zero, so no one's ever satisfied. It doesn't work. They didn't get it to zero. Of course it's not zero, because we've not vaccinated the amount of the population that you normally vaccinate with smallpox or measles or rabies or polio for it to work. Can we stick on that point? Because that's the important point. We didn't stop smallpox till you had vaccinated almost everyone in the society. That's how it works. Measles, same thing. And this is proven year after year after year in these religious schools, in these private schools where they don't do vaccinations, and they have outbreak after outbreak after outbreak. It happens all the time in the USA, all the time. Rabies, which I brought up before, not sure if you were listening to that, but this is great. I love challenge, because I'm only going to go back to the clear logic that supports how some of these drugs work, whether it's penicillin or any number of things, birth control, but so that's my answer. But we're never going to get that in the USA. We're never going to get to the 90 percentile of vaccinated people. It's just not going to happen, because I forget the number, but it's 30% or more will never ever get the shot, and that's fine. But then, unlike the way it's worked for polio, or the way it's worked for the measles, the way it's worked for smallpox, the way it's worked for whooping cough or any other thing, hepatitis, cervical, I forget the name of it. There's initials for that. Doesn't matter. I don't have to sit here and explain medical science, but I guess I do. But all of those things, and rabies is one of my favorite, because that's right in our face. Many of us have dogs, and we gladly obey the mandate to vaccinate your dog. That's right. If you have a dog, you're obeying the mandate to vaccinate your dog. And if you don't have a dog, someone on your street has a dog, they're obeying the state, the mandate, telling them what to do. Because they don't want their fucking dog to have rabies. So we have this weird, stuff around these things. But since we won't reach those numbers, as we do with dogs, as we do with those other diseases that I listed, you ask a great question. The boosters, I personally, I don't want a bunch of them. I'm going to keep doing the things that have worked and are working in other countries with better numbers than the U.S., which is pretty easy to find. When you look at the aggregate of the deaths, the infection rate, the blow-ups, the breakthroughs, all of these things, we're doing very badly, as we do. That's what we do. And I'm going to subscribe to the things that have worked in pockets of the USA, because there's pockets of the USA with really good numbers curving down. And I just did a tour where we, knock on wood, did everything we could. So I'm going to keep doing that, to answer your question. I'm going to keep masking up, not going out to big gatherings and stuff, especially when no one has a mask. I'm going to keep taking things like this, Elizabeth. That's what I take. That's what I do. I don't know why you're so angry at me. I take zinc. I take vitamin C. I take fat-based vitamins and B complex. I take care of my body. I eat foods to support my immune system, my digestive system. It's never enough, though. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be avoiding boosters. And I'm going to say, you know, some of these other drugs coming up. Let's see what happens. I don't know, but I'm going to keep reading about them and keep finding out. But it doesn't matter. People are going to say, "Oh, it's all conspiracy." They're working on these drugs. That's what's funny. They're going to work on drugs that properly do what the conspiracy world says ivermectin does, and it won't be enough. We're going to hear that it's this, it's that. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to some of this. But it's not a nut job conversation. Again, you're not a nut job. You want to put yourself in that category? I don't know what to say. But I'm looking you in the camera eye, not talking about you, not talking about a lot of my friends. I have dear friends. They're not nut jobs. I'm not going to name names, but I have a naturopath friend. I have a musician friend in LA, refuses to get the vaccine. Not a nut job. Another musician friend in LA refused to get it. He finally did because he had to go on this tour. Not a nut job. You're not a nut job. My former roommate, not a nut job. A guy that is in one of my bands will remain nameless. No shot. He's not a nut job. I could go on and on. Don't put words in my mouth. However, there are nut jobs, and I'm going to talk about them. Sabine says, that's the thing about anxiety. It's irrational and does not matter what one's afraid of. Yes. So anxiety is not, rationality is not what's helping. Yes, you're right. Many years you tried to apply logic. That's success, yeah. But you're afraid of spiders. This is getting interesting. Afraid of poison spiders. Okay, you can just kill them. Yeah, that's. This nut job conversation is why it's such a waste of time trying online because the wasting time spent on micro defining exactly what it's tiresome. Few fingers and thumbs. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, exactly. Keepers of phones. People can get more done actually face to face. Yeah, you're the only one actually talking. If parties actually listen, let's engage. We don't bother with people's response. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think Thomas. I'm again. It's tough, like you said, the words. But I think you're agreeing that having to do these micro definitions of every single statement, that's the tiresome part. But I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to say to someone who I have a great deal of respect for. I have a great deal of respect for the person on here, Elizabeth Wyman, and her sister Jennifer Wyman, and their mom, and wonderful family. They were customers of ours. I have no ill will. But I feel like I'm continually attacked because I just don't agree with 100% of their views. I don't get that. I agree with 90%. Doesn't matter. I'm an asshole. So, to be fair, you have not called me an asshole. You've called me a bunch of things, but I'm not calling you a nutcase. Never have. And again, the micro-defining, as Thomas brings up, is what makes this interesting. So, Sabine, nut job. You needed to Google it. Right. Just means, conspiracy fringe people who are and that's not everyone. Again, I already have the habit of saying stuff like that to balance how people are hearing things, but people hear what they want. Okay, great. Let's end with food and talk about some food. I have a few snacks to share that there's one more thing. I take this a bit. These are very little bit of zinc, but it's good to get a little trace zinc happening. Zinc is such an important immune builder, and zinc is one of the things that people like Joe Rogan and people like this Rogers guy, it's on the list of things. They talk about ivermectin, they talk about dexamethasone, they talk about vitamin D, they talk about liposomal C, they talk about zinc. So again, I'm not calling them all nutcases. I don't know where anyone gets this stuff, but some are. The ones who aren't, that talk rationally about a bunch of things to take, hey, we agree. The only place you disagree is they're not magic. And once you're lying in the hospital on a ventilator, there ain't no help for you on zinc and things like that. You've got a terrible, new, crazy pathogen. And if you're in the hospital in the ICU, get your papers in order is the problem for most people that get that far, vaxxed or not. So TheraZinc, it's pretty cool. It's elderberry, echinacea, and zinc. Very little zinc. I think 5-6 milligrams. But you take a few of these a day, and you're getting some trace zinc. I just took 50 milligrams zinc earlier. Okay, some of the snacks I like. The food was good. Maybe I'll do a food thing next week because I'm running out of time here. But yeah, I'll do a food thing next week because it's fun, and we'll try and talk more and more about food, which I did today. We just did 15 minutes of the vaccine, but it was easy to get a salad every day. I love it, and even a couple days. Well, I'll talk about food next week because there's some wonderful things to share. It's really great how many restaurants now have vegetarian soups and just egg. Y'all have heard me talk about that in this show. I had just egg 3 times because there was 2 different restaurants that had it on the menu and one of the catering. So as I point out all the time, these things are becoming mainstream. And I had somebody in our crew that eats very healthy. He'd never heard of just egg. He said, "What's that? You eat eggs?" I said, "Actually, I don't." But and this guy said, "I don't like eggs, but what is it?" I told him. He tried a bit. He goes, "Wow." He said, that's great. That's better than eggs because I don't like eggs." But he said, "What's the nutrition on this?" He pulls his phone out, looked it up, and this guy, he's great. He's a new colleague, new friend of mine, wonderful guy, and he said, "Wow, that's what just egg? This is really good. Some good numbers on this." This guy's very aware and educated on macronutrients and how much protein he's looking for, how many carbs, how many B vitamins, how many different things. And so that's what I love about some of these things is that when you put them in the scrutiny of people looking for optimum nutrition, we're there now, and some of these things are out there. So I had a good time. We'll talk about food again next week in detail. I'll start right out on that. And but I always carry some snacks with me, and I get these. This is the vegan jerky, and there's a company in Germany, Sabine, that makes these vegan sausages. They're wheat, gluten-based, soy-based. Really awesome. Those are like 20 grams of protein in a serving. How much is this one? I think this is about 10. Can't even see it with the light here. Jeez. This is 10. Carbs 6. Everything's so tiny there. I think I remember it was 10 though. Oh yeah, here it is. Is it 16? Yeah, this one's 16. So eating this, you know, on the run, it's the middle of the day, you can't get to something else. Protein's great, folks. I mean, that's one of the arguments that's interesting for those keto diets, for those zone, for the Atkins diet, for all these things. And they're right. Protein's a very important nutrient. We don't need as much as some of these people say, and you certainly don't need it to come from an animal. But these vegan jerkies are interesting because some are soy, some are wheat gluten. This one's non-GMO soy protein, water, naturally brewed soy sauce, expeller pressed canola oil. Not my favorite, but a tiny bit that's in there. Raw cane sugar, sea salt, vegetarian spices, no GMO, no preservatives. Okay, this salt is kind of a preservative, but a natural one. So pretty clean, and you just tear it open, easy to go. That one's soy. This one is shiitake mushrooms. I kind of prefer these. So this has shiitake mushrooms and almost the same stuff. Soy sauce, pepper, spices, different things. I think this one's got a little garlicky kind of a vibe. Hot and spicy, sweet and savory. So that's why there's peppers and things. But this is shiitake mushrooms, dried and put into a little, thing here. About the same protein. Jeez, I cannot read that. I need a light on this. Sorry, folks. Okay, 10 grams of protein. Yeah, both 10 grams of protein. There's also some iron. 10% of the day's iron in the soy one, 6% of the day's iron in the mushroom. That's good. That's a good 10%, especially from one little snack, is a good start. There's fiber in these, which you're not getting in a meat jerky. You're not getting any cholesterol, which you're going to get in a meat jerky. And some of those meat jerkies tend to be high sodium. This isn't awesome on sodium. Let's see. Where's the sodium? Of course, cholesterol 0. Sodium 383, which isn't too bad. That's 18% daily value. We forget that you want some sodium in your day. You just don't want to have excessive sodium. The other one, the soy one, has 344 milligrams, which is 14% a day. That's not bad at all. And 3 grams of fat in the soy one, 1 gram of fat in the mushroom. So really great nutrition if you're looking from that macronutrient point of view, which is an excellent way to look at stuff. Final one is this one. This is my favorite. I love these even more. And I talked about these once. These are Power Wraps by the company Gopal's. So I put their link up before, but let's look at the nutritions on this. So Gopal's Snacks, and it's Gopal's Health Foods. Right, okay. So let's look at the nutrition really quick. These are really cool because they are I think these are raw too. Yeah, these are raw. So it's just sprouted sesame seeds, sprouted pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, things like that. They use this kind of, I don't know if it's biodegradable, but it's some kind of special wrap that is not plastic. I forget what, but I should reach out to the company. Great company. They only make a few things. They're all really crunchy and vegan and organic and stuff like that. So this is a nori wrapped vegan jerky, is what they call it. It's a Japanese flavor. There's a curry flavor. There's a Mexican flavor. They're all a little different. Sunflower seeds, all organic. Sunflower seeds, brown rice miso, which has soybeans, brown rice, koji. Awesome. Koji spores. There's raw sesame seeds, nori, horseradish, spirulina, we talked about before, mustard seeds, ginger, wasabi, and stone ground Himalayan crystal salt. Wow. I have most of these in my pantry. Let's see. I've got sunflower seeds. I've got miso. Got sesame seeds, nori in the freezer. Got horseradish. Love it. I got spirulina. Mustard seeds. Yeah, I do have some mustard seeds. Got ginger, wasabi. Yeah, I have everything in the house to make this. Do I want to sit there for 2 hours making this shit up? No, but I could. So really good product. And I have these, I don't know, on this tour, 19 days, I probably had, I don't know, eight of these, 6 or 8 of these. It's not an everyday thing. But if it's a day where I'm like, you know what, had a light lunch, not much protein in it, then I'll have one of these. It is so if you eat these, it's 10 grams of protein, again, 10 grams of carbs, which is half of that fiber, almost half of that fiber, 2% calcium, 8% iron, 4% potassium. These are daily minimums, which we could debate. Very low sodium. That's about 300 milligrams of sodium. Of course, since it's not an animal, 0 cholesterol. Cholesterol only comes from animal foods. It's not in avocados. It's not in Brazil nuts or macadamia nuts or coconuts. Only from animals. Why is there still confusion about that? 22 grams of fat, which 2 grams are saturated fat. So that's, again, superb nutrition. They are tasty. They're inexpensive. They're really, really great. I'm going to go eat some more lunch, but just to show you what they look like a little cigar. I think I was pretending to have a cigar last week. They're green with the spirulina and just slightly crunchy, chewy, a little spice to it. It's mostly sunflower seeds. The nori just has a umami, really. You know? So So, folks, that brings to a close my little report, at least on the maintaining as much as I could my immune system. I went into this with a pretty healthy immune system. I was just like, man, I'm going out into the world again. So I upped my stuff, and hopefully, for any of you that checked out the whole show, there's some inspiration that, yeah, maybe I need to take more vitamin C or get some selenium. I forgot that one. I have that in the compound. Maybe just get some sambucas, elderberry, but find plant-based ways to do this. Next week we'll talk more about food. We'll talk about the things I didn't eat. I didn't eat any dairy. I ate wheat. I think. Let's see. I had a sandwich that I took with me, so I ate wheat like the very first day or before the first day. I had half of three quarters of a vegan donut. That was a beautiful gift from people in the crew. Other than that, I stayed away. I had like 2 or 3 pieces of ribbon pasta or something, just because it was there and there was that provided for the vegans. But I stayed away from grains for the most part. Ate some corn, and I felt the difference. Grains, folks. We could do a whole show on grains and how fucked up they are. Again, not every grain is fucked up. When I say that, it means in general, grains are something we should watch out for. And some of them are garbage, like bleached white flour and the overeating of wheat that Americans do, or shitty GMO corn. But there's good grains, quinoa, and, of course, not much wrong with barley and oats and things like that. We overeat them. There's some rice is better than others. Of course, brown rice with the hull and everything. Wild rice is probably one of the best ones. So when I say grains are fucked up, I hope some of the grains that are really nice grains don't get offended. But I'm going to say grains are fucked up. And I think most people should process that and realize I'm speaking generally. So I stayed away from that, stayed away from dairy. Didn't have any eggs, although I'm okay with eggs. Haven't had them in 5, 6 years. But I just tried to really stay as raw as I could. Tried to eat as much fruit every day. Ate a lot of apples, a lot of cantaloupe and green melon. I ate whenever I saw pineapple. Wow, pineapple is a really good one because the bromelain. There's good vitamins in pineapple. Uh, so I just tried to optimize and eat a lot of raw food and keep it really basic. And knock on wood, I felt great. And other than the day after I ate a bunch of corn, that was the only day I was like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. And it was some organic corn tortilla chips. I ate a bunch of them. I had a couple beers over the course of the time, but I really, I don't know. I just do better when I'm traveling. At home, I'm like, oh yeah, let's drink more than we should, or eat this, you know, whole vegan cookie or whatever nonsense. But I'm really psyched to stay on a more optimized, uh, more miso, more sauerkraut, more kimchi, things like that. I had some wonderful stuff, and I'm gonna try to stay on that because it works. It really works, and you feel so good, and you can feel your you know breathing clearly. You're not congested. You're not, which I've been, and I know the difference. But next week we'll get into some pictures, some food. I've got some videos from the George Street Co-op, which I visited. But thank you so much for coming, Sabine. Sorry again. I'm showing you food. You're right. Here we are again at night. Nussarbeit. And okay, and that's interesting. Weighing somebody's right to be vulnerable to disease against the larger community. Right. That's obviously problematic for some people. And if still everyone is free to decide, this is Sabine speaking from Germany, everyone should be able to do that without being judged. Okay, yeah. Over here, nurses that decide not to be vaccinated are called irresponsible, but as a salesman, it's okay. Yeah. I think meaning everyone's free to decide or not. All are equal without being. We can come back to that. I disagree to an extent because it's a highly infectious disease. If you're choosing to not be vaccinated, then we have the problem we have where you can't go into a concert and be sitting in the middle and not wearing your mask, right? And at some percentage, not everyone who's not vaccinated, but some percentage of them will have higher dose or higher infectivity of COVID, right? These are the facts. The problem we're having is there's some non-vaccinated people who are not getting COVID, so they walk around thinking that's universal. None of these things are universal. Likewise, the vaccinated people need to know that it's not 100%. No one ever said it was. So we have all these, but I would say I disagree with you. If you're not vaccinated and you're in, let's say, sitting in the middle of a concert and you happen to have got COVID and you don't know it because you may have thoughts where you're not getting tested, then yes, you're being irresponsible because you're spreading and breathing out more levels of it than a vaccinated person sitting 8 rows away who may have caught it. This is science. We've shown this. There's lower doses. There's lower load is what it is. Viral load. Here's something to leave with you, Sabine. If apply what you're saying, and you might not have been here when I talk about it. Apply what you're saying to dogs and rabies. If you live in a neighborhood and there's 10 dog owners, and 4 of them decide I'm not going to vaccinate my dog. I refuse. I did my research, and I'm not going to do it because it's Bayer chemical, and I hate them. I'm not vaccinating my dog. Okay, by your metrics, that's their freedom to decide. Okay, I'm with you. Now, are they being irresponsible? If one of those dogs, and then the dogs all walk around near each other, and maybe there's a dog park where they hang out sometimes, a few of them at a time, and those 4 owners, if there's an outbreak of rabies because of squirrels or because some dog ate something or whatever, and suddenly the 4 dogs have this, and one of them bites a human or bites a child that happens to have not been vaccinated, has that person been irresponsible? You tell me. By your metrics, you're saying no. We would disagree. That's an irresponsible person because they had knowledge of a highly efficacious way to prevent rabies spreading. And they said, I've got another choice. I've got my freedom. But see how they impact others immediately? Just offering something to think about. It's like someone decides, well, I don't want car insurance. Okay, then. But if you get into an accident, you're being irresponsible because now the other person has no recourse to repair their car, fix their broken leg, or their broken back. Like my partner. We had a horrible time because the person who caused her to nearly die in an accident didn't really have the right insurance. We suffered for that. We still have bills from that 5 years later. So it's about responsibility. We can make the argument, though, that if you want to not be vaccinated, stay over there. We'll stay over here. Everyone's happy. And that's what happens in these religious schools where they refuse to get measles. Okay, you can't come to a public school. You stay over there. And I talked about it before. What happens over and over and over and over in these religious schools, in these Amish schools, in these off-the-grid schools? There's all kinds of different ones. Doesn't happen in public schools, though, because you have to have a measles vax, you have to have a mumps and a rubella vax to be there. In these other places where they are segregated, right, which is a fine word used properly, they have outbreaks. So society has decided your responsibility to the group, to the masses, plays into this. You buy insurance. You get rabies shots. If your child's going to a public school with hundreds of other children, you get measles, mumps, and rubella. You get tetanus shots. You get rabies shots. It's, we've done this and we've shown what happens when you don't. Because you have freedom. You don't have to. But when you're over there in the private schools, the numbers are clear that that's where these things happen. So just some things to think about. Meg Donahue Kelly, it's such an honor to have you here, my friend. When you do stop by, say hi to Scott and everyone at the Saint. Hope you all are surviving. Matt Ross, how are you, my friend? We are due to catch up. Good grains on both sides. Exactly right. The good grains. You know what I'm talking about. It's the stripped, bleached, white flour junk that sadly too many Americans eat 3, 4, 5 times a day. Melons, cantaloupes, absolutely. Let's see. We're gonna have we're gonna have some pictures of I work for Pat Metheny. Tours are on the Pat Metheny website. That's my stock answer because everyone asks me, and I just can't. Um, more fresh, less fast food. Um, Sabine, oh wow, you're saying I should eat more fresh, less fast food? Oh, are you saying you should? Okay, because I eat uh, more than half raw fresh fruit. I eat salad every day, fruit every day. These things, which actually this is raw, is a raw sprouted thing, but I think you're saying I'm not sure. I think you're saying it's inspiring you. You should eat more. Yeah, it's kicking the ass. Yeah, yeah. And okay, so Sabine, I give you the last thought on that. You're saying it's a free decision or not. Not talking about consequences. Therefore, the person think mandatory vaccines is to be thought about. Yeah, I think about it every day. But I also know that we're in a completely new and unknown virus. That's the thing. We're judging a lot of these things based on measles, based on smallpox, based on HIV, which we're still working on a vaccine. And I think there's usefulness in that, but it's also completely new and horrible. So we have some new things to come up with. So I don't know. Yeah. So you personally think mandatory vaccines to be thought about. So tell me what you think, um, Sabine, in Germany. I don't know. In America, where we have, and I'm not American, I live here. I was not born here. Little sunflower seed, dry stuff there. Um, Tell me in Germany, what's mandatory to go to public school? Is there anything? Did you go to public school and did you have to get measles, smallpox vaccine? I'm not sure, but isn't that mandated? That's what I'm having trouble with. We seem to be attacking the concept of something being mandatory. As I keep saying, it's mandatory to vaccinate your dog in this country. I don't know about Germany. It's mandatory. You can't not do it, or you'll face the reprimand of state laws. It's mandatory to have insurance for your vehicle. It's mandatory to operate a motorized vehicle by getting a license for said vehicle. It's the mandate. So these people are bouncing around this word mandate like it just dropped from the sky for this stuff. We do mandated stuff all day. You're mandated to stop at a red light and a stop sign. It's the mandate of the state. They are forcing you to do it because if you don't, you'll suffer consequence after consequence. And if you repeatedly do it, you'll end up taken away from your freedom and put into a jail. So it's a mandate. I just don't get. We're in a society with all kinds of mandates. We have, I could go all day, obviously, on legal examples of mandated behavior. I was just on a plane a couple times for the first time in over 2 years. We were mandated to wear a seatbelt. There's FAA, Federal Aviation Authority. It's the law. I had to refrain from smoking. I don't smoke, but I could not. It's a mandate. Forced me to. And if I did, and I went into the laboratory and smoked, and I got into a fight with the stewardess, they will land the plane where they weren't going to and take me off the plane because there's a mandate by law. So we're surrounded by mandates. This is my problem when people say, I have a problem with mandatory. Well, it's 2021. We've gone through centuries of society where we tried a life with everyone could just do what they want. That's called feudalism. It's called tribalism. It's called the way the planet used to be. And it looks fun in movies. Just Visigoths going here and Aztecs going there. It looks awesome. But do you really want that? You really want just, I don't know. It seems like we've tried a lot of things that got us to the 21st century. It's not perfect. We have many centuries to go. But I think just some things to think about that our structure of our society is based on mandating behavior. And I know heads explode when they hear that. The liberal mind is trained to explode at the concept of mandated behavior. And the libertarian mind, really, that's the one. And I'm a liberal. I'm a leftist. I'm something. I shouldn't even use any labels because who knows what the fuck I am. I'm a progressive is what I try to say because I want to progress forward, and I have views that would be called European socialism, where I want healthcare, mass transit, affordable mass transit, 14 years of education, comprehensive universal healthcare. I want care for the elderly. I want maternity leave, paternity leave. I want care for children. I want so much care for children. Healthcare, basic food, free lunch in the morning, nutrition so their brains can go. So I'm a socialist. So I want these things, but those are all going to be mandated by the state, right? That's the mandate that Germany takes care of mentally ill people, right? It's a mandate. The state mandates that there be a program so that you, Sabine, get 14 years of education. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 16 years? That's the mandate, though. It's mandatory that it be available for you. It's not mandatory you have to go do it, right? You can go live in the woods and live on mushrooms if you want, and that's great. But it's a mandate for the various states in Germany to have a provision of these things. So I'll leave it with that. The idea of mandatory keeps being the center of our argument here. I like mandatory things when it means the guy speeding towards me has to stop at the light and not kill me. It's crazy, I know. So, all right. Good to see you all. Okay. From May 21, mandatory to have measles, child care, schools, and welfare. Before there was none. That's interesting. No mandate. So the first mandatory vaccines for a part of inhabitants to the freedom of the others. So a new thing there. And now with COVID, they discuss COVID vaccines. Okay, great. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to read more about German vaccinations. Thanks for telling me that. My first question would be, what was the percentage before the mandate? Because from what I know about your wonderful country, it probably was a pretty high percentage already without the mandate, right? You probably had a voluntary number that was very high. But I think I've given now 15 examples of things that are certainly mandated, right? I love working as a musician, as a production person in Germany, because the safety is great, the venues are great. There's all kinds of things we don't have about the electrical safety, and we do in our best venues. But I've been in the small, basic places in Germany, and it's so great, the regulatory aesthetic that you have as Germans, in even small little places. And those are mandated things. They have to have all these mandated safety things for the lights and for the way the electricity is done and marked. So you have a lot of mandates. But thanks for giving me the info. And I didn't know. I asked as a question. You give me the answer. I made no assumption about your childhood mandates. I asked and you have answered. I thank you so much. I'm going to read more about that. But think about all those other mandates as I was talking about, and think about whether the concept of making something mandatory is really the problem. Folks, have a good one. We'll see you next week. What an honor to do this and to discuss natural health and plant-based living. And I had fun today because we talked about a bunch of my things on my list. Yeah, supplements, free food, basic list, foods on tour. I just didn't get to show you pictures on food in the airport and things like that. I did talk about Thanksgiving briefly. We talked about wet markets. We talked about supplements. My philosophy that we should be getting it from food. I'll remind you at the end of that. At the end of this, I eat it in food. Supplements are just like the name sounds like. It's supplementing your food. Eat some broccoli, eat some eggplants, eat some cabbage, get some kimchi, eat some miso, eat some sauerkraut, eat some black beans, eat some wild rice, some brown rice, eat some apples, some pears, some peaches, some pineapple, eat some berries, eat cabbage, eat lettuce. We have all these foods, white beans, red beans, lentils, shiitake mushrooms, enoki mushrooms, button mushrooms. Mix it up. You're going to get vitamins in everything I just said. So you don't need to take vitamins. But I suspect a lot of people are eating that whole list of foods. I have all those foods in a weekly, Brussels sprouts. I eat these high-power foods. Tempeh. It's taken me a long time. So I know that's a lot for people to hear. So supplements can help fill in the blank. So we talked about all this. Next week we'll get into some of the specific foods and the fun stuff on tour. I'll leave you with those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving in the United States. Try to remember the tribal people. Try to remember the Cree and the Apache and the Lakota. Try to remember the Blackfeet people, the Iroquois, the Piscataway. Try to remember that they got their asses kicked. And if we're giving thanks, let's give compassion. That this holiday that's made up in America that always has the the uh, the whatchamacallit, the um, uh, the imagery. They have this uh, uh, the greeting cards. There's always a native person with some not sarcastic, some cliche outfit and the feathers and everything, and they're eating and the pilgrims, and that's not how it went. They got their asses kicked. They got lied to. They got treaties that were broken. They got murdered, slaughtered. Some of them had wars and killed each other. A lot of people on the left forget that part. They weren't sitting around knitting baskets, being angels. There were many warring tribes who killed and raped and pillaged and slaughtered. Stop being where the American left is going and pretending reality isn't what it is. Lots of murdering tribes, okay? Aztecs, Mayans, we go down to Central America, South America. Human beings. They kill, they murder, they have war. But they have peace and they have treaties and they work things out. We took a lot of things from the Iroquois and other tribes who figured out how to work together in peacefulness. A lot of the American Constitution has some elements in there. A lot of it's from France, but a lot of it they took from, these tribes have these treaties and they've worked over the centuries to work together. I'm just offering up in this holiday that we have all this imagery of these native people. They still have some of the worst numbers of alcoholism, drug abuse, not being funded in the reservations, getting their land continually poisoned to these days. I'm offering up just a thought to keep them in your thoughts, in your thankfulness, and also have as much plant-based food as you can. Remember, all those side dishes are usually vegetarian. The green bean casserole, the cranberry stuff, the stuffing if it wasn't cooked inside the bird. It's just bread and herbs and spices and things. Wild rice, some squash soup. A lot of vegetarian items. So there's all these really great plant-based roasts that you can make the part of your meal. Maybe this is your year to try that for the first time. Save one more turkey. Okay, just some thoughts. Have a good one, whatever you celebrate on this.